Chapter 2039. A bunch of trash. Lin Hongzhe couldn't help but curse when he saw the little lowly running away in front of him, while his subordinates couldn't do anything about it. His subordinates were submissive, and some of them even cursed in their hearts. That little girl's speed is so fast, even you can't stop her, right? Although they thought so in their hearts, they didn't say it out loud. Otherwise, the city lord wouldn't let them off. Forget it, keep an eye on her, and don't let her come back to cause trouble. Lin Hongzhe waved his hand, and then took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people looked at each other in dismay. Doesn't the city lord usually love his only son the most? Now that his son has been killed, why didn't he chase after the murderer in anger? In the past, even if someone said a few words about his son, he would kill them with his own hands. It seems to be because of the person who was captured by the city lord. That person is more important than his son. Everyone looked at each other in dismay, and doubts arose in their hearts. Lin Hongzhe's behavior was too abnormal. In fact, at this moment, Lin Hongzhe's heart was only filled with joy. Where would there be any hatred? Strictly speaking, he was mostly happy at this moment. The hatred for his son's death had already been thrown far away by him. For an ambitious person like him, there was nothing more important than increasing his strength. Only son? He could just have another one in the future. Anyway, his lifespan was unlimited. Although the higher the cultivation level, the worse the fertility. But as long as he worked hard, he would eventually reap the harvest. Now, Lin Hongzhe was anxious to go back and prepare to devour Moronyu. At this moment, Moronyu's power had been sealed and thrown into the big cauldron. Originally, Moronyu didn't care much. It was only when he was thrown into the big cauldron that he realized. An extremely powerful force appeared in the big cauldron and suppressed his soul the moment he entered. In the big cauldron, Moronyu's soul wouldn't be suppressed. But if he wanted to rush out of the big cauldron, a terrifying force would quickly suppress him and directly suppress his soul until he couldn't move. This big cauldron was very terrifying, and it didn't seem to need Lin Hongzhe to activate it. Sure enough, it was worthy of being called an origin artifact that specifically targeted soul cultivators. Moronyu reckoned that this large cauldron was most likely a heaven-tier origin tool. Of course, it was also possible that it was a Genesis-tier origin tool. On Lin Hongzhe's way back to the city lord's mansion, Moronyu tried to rush out of the cauldron several times, but in the end he was suppressed. This made him very depressed. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to force his way out. If he wanted to rush out, he could only wait for Lin Hongzhe to activate this Yuan tool. The internal space of the cauldron wasn't very big. It was only 1 or 2 times bigger than Moronyu's body. It was just enough to accommodate Moronyu alone. Walala. Just as Moronyu was thinking about how to get out of the cauldron, liquid suddenly fell from the sky. Then, before Moronyu could react, the entire space inside the cauldron was filled with the liquid. With Moronyu's current realm and strength, he naturally wouldn't be drowned by this liquid. Therefore, he immediately stopped breathing. With the ability of the tree of life in his body, not to mention that he didn't need to breathe. Even if he did, the tree of life could support him and prevent him from suffocating. However, just as Moronyu stopped breathing, he felt a pure and powerful force continuously seeping into his body from the 1.08 billion pores on his body. Wherever the force passed, Moronyu felt that his physical body began to improve slightly. These are obviously good things to temper the physical body. Is Lin Hongzhe going to help me improve the level of my physical body? Moronyu felt for a while and said hesitantly, "Plop, plop, plop." While Moronyu was puzzled, a large number of things were thrown into the cauldron's internal space. Moronyu scanned with his divine consciousness and found that these things were all supreme-grade medicinal herbs. Some could directly improve the physical body's realm, just like the liquid from before. Some could directly improve one's cultivation. There were even some that could directly improve one's soul cultivation. These were all good things. Even with Lin Hongzhe's strength and status, it wouldn't be easy to collect these things. It would probably take a long time. And it was very likely that these things were Lin Hongzhe's lifelong collection. While Murong Yu was still thinking about why Lin Hengze did this, he found that the cauldron began to emit heat from the outside. And under the impact of the heat, the liquid gradually began to heat up. Was he going to steam him and then eat him raw? In this way, as long as Lin Hengze ate Murong Yu, he could eat all the things contained in these heaven and earth treasures. A frightening thought suddenly flashed through Murong Yu's mind. Ha, good. Kid, I'm sure you've already guessed what's going to happen. That's right, I'm going to steam you and refine you into a soul pill. As long as I swallow this soul pill, then my soul will become a soul cultivator. At the same time, the medicinal power absorbed from these heaven and earth treasures will be transferred to my body. At that time, I'll be able to rush to the 6th level of the insight realm. 6th level of the insight realm and a soul cultivator. I can already imagine how important I'll be in the Lin family. In just a few years, I'll be able to control the entire Lin family and even rule the entire Milky Way star field. Ha ha ha! Lin Hengze's laughter rang in Murong Yu's ears. Murong Yu's face was gloomy, and his eyes flashed with a terrifying killing intent. If Lin Hengze killed him, then so be it. But if he was refined into a soul pill and eaten, then even if he died, he wouldn't be able to rest in peace. Of course, Murong Yu's main soul was in Hichu Luo Shu. Even if this cauldron was a heaven realm origin tool, it definitely couldn't refine Hichu Luo Shu. But would his main soul be killed by the overflowing damage? Even if he didn't die, it would be difficult for him to escape from here. Haha, don't worry. The heaven and earth treasures you see are only a small portion. There's still a lot of things I haven't put in. Then, enjoy your last moments. Lin Hengze's voice sounded again. Pa! Murong Yu slapped him on the forehead. How could I be so stupid? Why do I want to escape from here? There are so many heaven and earth treasures here. Once I absorb them, I might be able to break through again. If I can break through a few small realms. So what if Lin Hengze is at the 5th level of the insight realm? I'll kill him directly. Murong Yu scolded himself for being stupid. Then he sat down cross-legged and began to absorb the crazy medicinal power. At this time, the liquid in the cauldron was boiling, and all the heaven and earth treasures were cooked. It even saved Murong Yu the time to refine them. Cultivation, physical body, and soul, all 3 aspects began to slowly but steadily improve. Murong Yu had never experienced this feeling before. At most, he had only tried to improve his cultivation and physical body at the same time. Therefore, if he wasn't in danger, Murong Yu couldn't help but roar. However, silence was golden now. Didn't Lin Hengze want to refine him into a soul pill? At that time, he would give Lin Hengze a big surprise. 3 days later, Lin Hengze threw in a lot of heaven and earth treasures again. When he opened it, he found that 90% of the medicinal power in the cauldron was gone. He didn't think much about it. He just thought that the medicinal power was refined into Murong Yu's body. As for Murong Yu's absorption, Lin Hengze didn't believe that Murong Yu could absorb so many things. Even if he did, it wouldn't be a big deal. In any case, Murong Yu would be refined into a soul pill in the end. Moreover, he believed that even a 5th level insight realm cultivator wouldn't be able to absorb all of his things. City Lord, that little girl came to cause trouble again. This time, hundreds of people were killed by her. When Lin Hengze added things to the cauldron for the 2nd time, a city guard came to report. A fierce light flashed in Lin Hengze's eyes. He kicked the city guard and sent him flying. Trash. A bunch of trash can't even stop a little brat. The city guard got up and lowered his head. He didn't say anything. However, he cursed in his heart. That girl's speed is so scary. She's not afraid of restrictions and formations. Every time she comes, she'll run away. How do you expect us to catch her? Send people to protect the city lord's mansion. Don't let her come and cause trouble. Otherwise, a fierce light flashed in Lin Hengze's eyes. The city guard's figure trembled slightly, and then he quickly left. Fast. Once I refine a soul pill and break through, it'll be the time of your death. Lin Hengze's eyes flashed with a terrifying light as he sneered. In fact, The little lowly had killed many people from the city lord's mansion in the past few days. She was obviously putting on a show of force. However, this little girl's ferocious nature was really not to be concealed. She didn't even blink when killing people. Fortunately, she didn't kill indiscriminately. Otherwise, she would be a little devil. Whem! On this day, Lin Hongze felt his cauldron suddenly tremble. Lin Hongze didn't have any reaction to this, because this was already the second time. The first time, he thought that something had happened in the cauldron, so he sent a trace of divine perception to take a look. However, he didn't discover anything. Therefore, this time, he was able to check everything. My body and soul have already broken through to the second level of the creation realm. According to this speed, my cultivation will be able to break through to the second level of the creation realm in less than 3 days. At that time, I'll possess strength comparable to the fourth level of the insight realm. At that time, I should be able to create creatures at the insight realm, right? Within the cauldron, Muronyu couldn't help but feel happy in his heart. However, amidst his happiness, he was slightly surprised. Lin Hongze was only at the fifth level of the insight realm, but he had too many treasures of heaven and earth. It didn't conform to his current identity as the city lord at all. However, all of this had nothing to do with him. What he had to do now was to be fearless and madly refine these medicinal strengths to improve his strength. Chapter 2040. When Muronyu was at the Bright World realm, although his battle prowess was strong, it was only enough to cross an entire realm. After that, it would be impossible for him to increase his battle prowess by even a small realm. But when he broke through to the creation realm, his real combat power was 1 realm and 3 realms higher than his real realm. Didn't they say that the higher the realm, the greater the gap between each realm? Could it be that he was growing in reverse? It would be great if that was the case. Muronyu realized that his physical body and soul had broken through to the second stage of the creation realm. But his combat power did not increase greatly. It only increased to the peak of the third stage of the profound underworld realm. When Muronyu thought of the previous situation, he couldn't help but feel suspicious. Could it be because he was in the same realm? Previously, he had never tried to have the same cultivation, soul, and physical body. Perhaps there had been such a situation before, but his realm was too low and his performance was not too outstanding. Is this the reason? I'll know soon. Muronyu thought to himself with a smile on his face. That was because his cultivation was about to break through soon. Lin Hongze still did not discover anything in the following period of time and continued to put in a large number of treasures. Furthermore, the medicinal strength of these heavenly treasures had all gone to Muronyu. It was different from Murongyu's peaceful side. However, the city under Lin Hongze's rule had been thrown into chaos these days, and the initiator was naturally little Lolita. Apart from Lin Hongze, all the powerful people in the city lord's mansion took action and even set up all kinds of traps to kill little Lolita. However, the little lowly was too slippery. Every time, she would appear openly and arrogantly. But these traps had no effect on her at all. Little Lolita was very fast and was not afraid of any formations or restrictions. The most terrifying thing was that every time someone attacked little Lolita's body would automatically ripple with a ray of light. When the light rippled out, the power that bombarded her body naturally dissipated. In fact, the people of the city lord's mansion had used various methods to trap the little lowly many times. But in the end, the little lowly managed to escape. The city lord's mansion couldn't do anything to little lowly, but little lowly was merciless. She would kill anyone from the city lord's mansion she caught, regardless of whether they were in the rebirth state or the creation state. It was even to the extent that a few Nether Enlightenment realm experts were killed by the little lowly's sneak attacks. This kind of result caused the little lowly to laugh wildly on the spot. At this moment, the little lowly appeared out of nowhere and hovered above the city lord's mansion. He carried a giant axe on his shoulder and placed one hand on his waist. His face was full of arrogance as he looked down at the city lord's mansion. Hence, quickly release Murongyu for this beauty. Otherwise, this beauty's helper will come in one day. Let me tell you, my helper is a terrifying existence of the heaven tier. I can wipe you idiots out with a single hand. Looking at the incomparably arrogant little lowly, everyone in the city felt rather speechless. However, while they were speechless, some people had already started to ponder. These few days, little lowly's performance had shocked countless cultivators. Little lowly definitely had many trump cards on her, and they were at least creation realm level treasures, right? She had these good things at such a young age, so her backer was at least creation realm. As for heaven tier, no one believed it. There were only 10 supreme heaven tier cultivators in the entire Milky Way star field. What were the chances of little lowly being related to them? Almost infinitely equal to 0. However, little lowly definitely had a creation realm expert behind her. In the City Lord's mansion, a cultivator who looked like a general of the city guards said to Lin Hengze in a low voice, "City Lord, if the expert behind that little girl comes, with our current strength, we won't be able to resist at all. Trash, use your pig brain to think. How could she have a creation realm expert as her backer? If she did, she would have come long ago. Why wait until now? Stall her for me. Once I break through, it'll be the time of her death. At that time, all the treasures on her will be ours." Lin Hengze sent the general of the city guards flying with a slap and then scolded him angrily. That general of the city guards left submissively. Creation realm expert, huh? Once I become a soul cultivator, what's there to fear? Even if I'm not a match now, as long as I'm given time, I'll definitely be able to break through to the creation realm and then directly charge to the heaven tier, dominating the Milky Way star field. Lin Hengze sneered, opened the large cauldron, and added in some natural treasures again. Cowards, you actually won't let him go. This beauty is very angry. The consequences of this beauty's anger are very serious. Seeing that the people of the City Lord's mansion ignored her and didn't let Murongyu go, little lowly couldn't help but fly into a rage. Since that's the case, then I'll blow you all up. As she spoke, little lowly already had a talisman in her hand. Looking at the City Lord's mansion below with an angry gaze, little lowly then threw down the talisman in her hand. Shwa! Everyone only saw a flash of light in their line of sight, and then there was no sound. However, an incomparably strong aura of death enveloped their entire bodies at this moment. Rumble, at this moment, a dazzling yellow light suddenly flashed from the City Lord's mansion. At the same time, Lin Hengze was also about to open the large cauldron with a smile on his face, because he felt that the soul pill had been successfully refined. Now was the time to collect the pill. Just as Lin Hengze opened the large cauldron, an earth-shattering loud sound suddenly exploded in the City Lord's mansion. At the same time as the loud sound rang out, many cultivators who were watching the City Lord's mansion were shocked to discover. Under the impact of that dazzling yellow light, the entire City Lord's mansion instantly turned into ashes. The City Lord's mansion was actually razed to the ground. At this moment, everyone who was watching the scene was so scared that even their breathing stopped. Then, one by one, they shot out into the distance as if they had gone mad. The City Lord's mansion was razed to the ground in an instant, and other than 2 black figures rushing out, nothing else came out. If that terrifying power spread out, the entire city would probably be razed to the ground, right? Because of that, everyone was trying their best to escape. However, very quickly, they stopped in bewilderment. This was because they did not see the power that destroyed the City Lord's mansion spread out, and they even saw that the terrifying power had disappeared into thin air. At this moment, a yellow talisman rose from the ashes of the City Lord's mansion and flew towards the little lowly. In the end, the little lowly caught it in the air and put it into the treasure space. A furious roar that contained monstrous anger came from afar. Everyone looked over, only to see a man in ragged clothes flying over from afar in anger. Waves of terrifying aura constantly emitted from his body, sweeping in all directions and smashing the space around him. "It's City Lord Lin," one of the cultivators exclaimed. This person was Lin Hengze. Originally, He was about to collect this soul pill. However, he did not expect the little lowly's talisman to raise the entire city lord's mansion to the ground. The reason why Lin Hongzhe was not blasted to pieces was because he had many treasures. One treasure after another was taken out by him, blocking the terrifying impact of the power. In the end, he was able to escape successfully. Lin Hongzhe's eyes flashed with a terrifying light as he looked at the little lowly. Who was the little lowly? Why would she be afraid of Lin Hongzhe? On the contrary, the little lowly glared at Lin Hongzhe. Little mouse, do you believe that this beauty will blast you to death? The little lowly waved the talisman in her hand and looked at Lin Hongzhe with disdain. The killing intent in Lin Hongzhe's heart was monstrous as he suddenly stretched out his hand. However, his hand was not aimed at the little lowly, but the large cauldron on the other side. However, at this moment, the large cauldron disappeared into thin air. After the large cauldron disappeared, a figure appeared in its place. Morongyu. You weren't refined into a soul pill. Lin Hongzhe's eyes almost popped out. Morongyu looked at Lin Hongzhe with a mocking gaze. Do you think that with your shoddy alchemy skills, you can refine a soul pill? Let me tell you a very unfortunate news. Those heavenly treasures that you used to refine a soul pill were all eaten by me, and they were all digested by me. In other words, my cultivation level has unfortunately increased by a small level. Tell me, should I be grateful to you? Or should I be grateful to you? Pooh! Lin Hongzhe was already injured, and at this moment, he spat out a large mouthful of blood. Those heavenly treasures were his life's savings, and they were originally used to refine a soul pill to help him become a soul cultivator. However, he never thought that he would not be able to refine Morongyu into a soul pill. On the contrary, he helped Morongyu become a soul pill. This was a great irony. Saint Soul Slash. At this moment, Morongyu made a powerful move, and his strongest soul attack ruthlessly slashed towards the distracted Lin Hongzhe. Lin Hongzhe violently attacked and shattered Morongyu's attack. However, just as he was about to counterattack, Morongyu had already teleported to the little lowly's side. At the same time, he grabbed the little lowly, broke through the void, and flew away. Little thief, where do you think you're going? Even if you run to the ends of the earth, I will not rest until I kill you. Lin Hongzhe's heart was filled with anger, and he quickly chased after him. Big bad guy you've broken through? But you still don't seem to be a match for that little rat. The little lowly carried her huge axe and looked at Morongyu helplessly. A strange smile appeared on Morongyu's face as he said, just wait and see. If Lin Hongzhe dares to chase after me, then today will be the day he dies. When he finished speaking, Morongyu's voice was filled with killing intent. Chapter 2041. The little lowly looked at Morongyu with eyes full of curiosity and doubt. That little rat is a level 5 netherworld insight realm existence. Big baddie, although you've made a breakthrough, can you really kill him? Although little Lolita knew that Morongyu was powerful, the gap between the two of them was too big. It was not that she did not believe in Morongyu, but it was really hard to believe. Morongyu smiled faintly and did not explain much. If he had broken through a few more small realms before reaching the manifestation realm, he would have definitely run as far away as he could when he saw someone like Lin Hongzhe. But now, Morongyu had a crazy idea in his heart. Although he was only at the 2nd level of the creation realm, he already had the battle power of the 4th level of the profound underworld realm. Lin Hongzhe was at the 5th level of the profound underworld realm. In theory, Morongyu's battle power was at least 100 times weaker than his. If Lin Hongzhe had any trump cards, the gap between him and Morongyu would be even bigger. Big baddie, what idea do you have? Seeing that Morongyu only smiled and did not answer, little Lolita could not help but feel depressed and asked again. But Morongyu still only smiled. Thief, where do you think you're going? Lin Hongzhe's earth-shattering roar continuously came from behind Morongyu and little Lolita. Her voice was filled with incomparable anger and grievance, as if she had been raped. Morongyu did not respond. He only used his speed and turned into a ray of light that quickly swept across the sky. His speed was already quite heaven-defying. After his battle power reached the peak of the 4th level of the profound underworld realm, his speed was almost the same as Lin Hongzhe's, or even slightly faster. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Figures constantly rose into the sky and chased after Murong Yu and the other two before disappearing into the sky. However, Murong Yu and the other two were too fast. In less than an hour, they had already disappeared in front of everyone. Everyone looked at each other and felt depressed. Originally, they wanted to chase after them and watch the show, but now they could not do so. It's time. When they were far away from the city and came to a desolate mountain range, Murong Yu stopped. Here, little Lolita looked at Murong Yu with a puzzled gaze. Murong Yu nodded and looked at Lin Hongzhe, who was rushing over from behind. Thief, why aren't you running? You know that you can't outrun me? Lin Hongzhe rushed, and taunted Murong Yu. In his mind, Murong Yu must have known that he couldn't escape, so he decided not to. Murong Yu smiled faintly. Why am I not running? That's because I felt that this wilderness was the perfect place to bury you, so I was waiting for you to come up and die. Lolitas, Murong Yu's right, little Lolita. Little Lolita was puzzled. Then, she saw 5 figures appear in front of her. They were the azure dragon, white tiger, black tortoise, vermilion bird, and Qilin. They were the creatures created by Murong Yu. 5 creatures appeared at the same time. Little Loli and Lin Hongzhe couldn't help but be startled. However, little Lolita was only surprised and curious. However, at the same time, Lin Hongzhe's face was filled with greed. He realized that not only could Murong Yu make 5 creatures appear at the same time, but the level of these creatures was extremely high. They had reached the 3rd level of the Insight realm. It was only a small realm lower than Murong Yu's. If he could take away such a heaven-defying ability, then, with his strength, wouldn't he be able to create more and stronger creatures? Die! With greed in his heart, Lin Hongzhe took a step forward and stretched out his hand, grabbing at Murong Yu in the air. Murong Yu sneered in his heart. The 5 sacred beasts roared at the same time and went up to meet him. Lin Hongzhe's face changed slightly when he saw the 5 sacred beasts charging at him. However, the greed in his eyes grew stronger. Not only were the 5 sacred beasts powerful, they were comparable to the 3rd level of the Insight realm. Moreover, these 5 sacred beasts even had soul attacks. At this moment, the 5 sacred beasts attacked Lin Hongzhe crazily in terms of strength and soul. Lin Hongzhe's eyes flashed with disdain. Even Murong Yu, who was at the peak of the 4th level of the Insight realm, couldn't take a hit from him, let alone these 5 sacred beasts. Lin Hongzhe's hand, which was originally aimed at Murong Yu, suddenly changed direction. It enveloped the 5 sacred beasts and slammed down. Puff! The 5 sacred beasts couldn't resist at all and were smashed into a pile of mud. It's over. The little Loli couldn't help but cover her eyes with her hands. At the same time, she said to Murong Yu speechlessly, Big Baddie, if this is your trump card, I think we can escape. Something doesn't seem right? The little Loli, who was talking, felt that the surrounding atmosphere was a bit strange. Thus, she let go of her fingers and secretly looked forward. 10 sacred beasts? The little Loli almost bit her tongue. This was because she saw 10 saint beasts that looked exactly the same as the one before, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws as they pounced towards Lin Hongzhe. Lin Hongzhe's reaction was the same as the little Loli's. He was also shocked. However, what made them even more shocked was only the beginning. Before they could finish being shocked, they saw a blur in front of their eyes. In the next moment, 10 more sacred beasts appeared in their line of sight. They didn't have time to be shocked. In the next moment, more sacred beasts appeared. 1,000. The little Loli cried out in surprise. Her face was filled with shock. Lin Hongzhe was also completely shocked to the point of being dumbfounded. It was true that creation realm experts could create things. However, Creating things required the consumption of their own blood essence and a huge amount of energy. A cultivator's blood essence was limited. Most people could only create one creature at most. They definitely wouldn't create many creatures. It wasn't that they couldn't, but that would cause too much damage to their bodies. After all, blood essence wasn't fresh blood. They could recover a large amount of fresh blood with a thought, but blood essence needed a long time to slowly recover. If the creatures they created were killed by the opponent with a punch, it was equivalent to wasting a drop of blood essence. For someone like Lin Hongzhe, who only had 100 drops of blood essence, even if he lost a drop of blood essence, it would have a huge impact on him. It was precisely because of this that most creation realm experts, and even netherworld realm experts, wouldn't create creatures to assist them in battle. The effect wasn't great. Moreover, it would cause too much damage to themselves. If a person risked serious injuries, they could also create 100 creatures. However, after this person created these creatures, their battle strength would definitely drop to an unimaginable level. Ordinary people would be able to kill them. As for the 100 drops of blood essence, it would take an extremely long time to recover. During the recovery process, not only would the person's strength be far from their peak, even their cultivation would be greatly affected. However, Morong had created 1,000. No, it had already reached 3,000 creatures. Moreover, Morong's expression didn't change at all. In other words, Morong had a few thousand drops of blood essence. What kind of monster was this? He was actually so abnormal. Lin Hongzhe and the little lowly couldn't help but stare at Morong in a daze. They were shocked by Morong to the point that they were numb. As for Morong, it seemed like he wouldn't stop until he scared the two of them to death. The number of creatures continued to increase. 5,000, 7,000, 9,000, 10,000. A total of 10,000 creatures surrounded Lin Hongzhe. Each of the holy beasts stared at Lin Hongzhe with ferocious gazes. Their ferocious auras filled the entire area. Even though Lin Hongzhe was a powerful existence at the 5th level of the profound underworld realm, he still felt a chill in his heart when he was stared at by these holy beasts. 10,000 creatures with the same strength. While Lin Hongzhe was shocked, his desire to refine Morong into a soul pill became even stronger. The more abnormal Morong's performance was, the stronger his desire became. Because once Morong was refined into a soul pill, then he would be able to take away part of Morong's strength. Kill. Thus, he made his move again. Actually, before he made his move, Morong had already controlled the 10,000 creatures to charge forward. Then, he pulled the little lowly and retreated far away. Big baddie, how did you do it? Is 10,000 creatures your limit? The little lowly reacted at this moment and asked Morong excitedly. Morong only smiled faintly. He naturally wouldn't tell the little lowly that this wasn't his limit. His limit was practically limitless. Because of the Tree of Life, for every drop of essence blood he used, the Tree of Life would create a drop of essence blood. As long as he had enough strength, he could create an unlimited number of creatures. He wouldn't be limited by essence blood at all. That little rat's strength is too terrifying. Big baddie, your creatures won't be able to do it. The little lowly didn't pursue Morong's silence. She only looked ahead excitedly. In front, Lin Hongzhe was surrounded by 10,000 holy beasts at the peak of the level 3 insight realm. All kinds of power and soul attacks were constantly pouring over. Putting aside the power attacks, the most terrifying ones were the soul attacks. The reason why he wasn't afraid of Morong's soul attacks previously was because he had a soul defense treasure. However, that cauldron had long been suppressed by Morong in the depths of Hichu Luoshu. Therefore, Lin Hongzhe had a hard time resisting. However, there was a difference of at least 10,000 times between the two sides. Therefore, all the holy beasts that were attacked by Lin Hongzhe didn't have the strength to resist and were directly slapped to death. In less than a few breaths' time, close to 2,000 holy beasts were slapped to death by Lin Hongzhe. Morong sneered. At this moment, he had already replenished the essence blood that he had lost. Therefore, with a thought, another 1,000 holy beasts appeared in front of him. Then, they roared and charged at Lin Hongzhi. Before this batch of holy beasts reached Lin Hongzhi, the second batch of 1,000 holy beasts appeared. Chapter 2042. Lin Hongzhi's furious roar spread far and wide, shattering a large part of the void and reaching the 9 heavens. The reason why he was so furious was because he had finally killed a few saint beasts. But before he could rejoice, another lively holy beast came over to fill in the gap. In other words, Lin Hongzhi was facing 10,000 powerful saint beasts, all of which were soul cultivators. Originally, Lin Hongzhi was already seriously injured, and after being surrounded by 10,000 saint beasts for a while, his injuries became even worse, and his soul had been attacked many times. At this moment, his soul had already been seriously injured. If this continued, he would definitely die in less than a minute. Therefore, he knew that there was no hope of capturing Moronyu today, or even killing Moronyu, and he was not willing to die. Therefore, he wanted to break out of the encirclement. However, the reason why Moronyu had lured him to this desolate place was to kill him. Moreover, he was not willing to spread the news that he could create so many living beings. Therefore, he would definitely not let Lin Hongzhi go. Therefore, Lin Hongzhi charged left and right, showing off his power and killing a large number of saint beasts. But the number of saint beasts was not small. In the end, Lin Hongzhi did not know how many saint beasts he had killed, but all he could see was still a dense pack of fierce saint beasts. And, basically, after charging for a long time, he was still moving around in a circle, unable to break out of the encirclement. In this process, he was attacked many times, and his injuries became more serious. The more serious the injuries, the weaker the power he could unleash. And once his strength dropped, the injuries he suffered would be even more severe. This was an endless cycle. If Lin Hongzhi did not have any trump cards, he would be exhausted to death by these 10,000 saint beasts. Unfortunately, in order to block the little lowly's attack, Lin Hongzhi had used up all his trump cards. And other than some pills to recover his power, he did not have any other treasures. All of his heavenly treasures had already been eaten by Moronyu. Moronyu, the Lin family will not let you off. As long as you are in the Milky Way star field, there is no place for you. Lin Hongzhi roared with grief and indignation. Then, with a boom, it exploded into pieces. Self-detonation. The self-detonation power of a level 5 Insight Realm super expert was extremely terrifying. However, Moronyu was surrounded by 10,000 saint beasts. Therefore, he could only annihilate these 10,000 saint beasts in an instant. He couldn't do anything to Moronyu at all. The two of them had already retreated far away. A dignified 6th level Insight Realm existence was actually exhausted to death by his creation. It was simply too pathetic. Moronyu couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. It wasn't that he sympathized with Lin Hongzhi. Lin Hongzhi deserved to die. He felt pity for those 10,000 creations. That was 10,000 drops of essence blood. Big baddie, will you kill me? The little lowly jumped in front of Moronyu and looked at Moronyu with a fearful expression. Of course I will. How do you want to die? Moronyu was startled at first, then said fiercely. The little lowly rolled her eyes and stretched out her neck. Then kill me to silence me. Okay. Moronyu grabbed the little lowly and then shot into the distance. Something earth-shattering had just happened here. The people behind would soon catch up. The others weren't afraid, but Moronyu was afraid of meeting the Lin family's experts. At that time, he wouldn't be a match for them. It would be very depressing. Sure enough, not long after Moronyu left, someone rushed over. At this time, the Lin family was already in chaos because of Lin Hongzhi's death. Lin Zai's death made the Lin family's upper echelons extremely angry. That was because although Lin Zai's strength wasn't high, his status in the Lin family wasn't low at all. It was the same for Lin Hongzhi. Lin Hongzhi was only in a small city and wasn't valued by the Lin family at all. But Lin Hongzhi was a level 5 Insight Realm existence. An expert of this level was already considered an expert in the Tiger Claw Galaxy. Even the Lin family, he was a core member. After all, with Lin Hongza's talent, there was still hope for him to become a level 6 or even 7 Insight Realm expert. Moreover, other than Lin Hongza being a level 5 Insight Realm expert, Lin Hongza was actually the son of a big shot in the Lin family. Otherwise, how could Lin Hongza have so many treasures? If it wasn't for his father, he wouldn't have been able to collect so many treasures in his lifetime. Therefore, when the news of Lin Hongza's death reached his father was directly enraged. Although his father's status in the Lin family wasn't as high as Lin Zhe's father, he was definitely a person with real power. Therefore, because of his anger, the entire Lin family was in chaos. Lin Zhe's matter hadn't been resolved yet, and now Lin Hongza was dead. This was definitely a provocation to the Lin family. When the Lin family found out that the two of them died at the hands of Murong, they were even more enraged. In less than a day, the image of Murong and the little lowly spread throughout the Tiger Claw Galaxy. Capturing or killing the two of them would definitely be heavily rewarded. Therefore, the entire Tiger Claw Galaxy became lively as everyone tried to capture or kill Murong and the little lowly. The Lin family also made a move and sent out a large number of experts to track down Murong and the little lowly. At the same time, the main passageways in and out of the Tiger Claw Galaxy were also sealed by the Lin family. There was no other way. Who asked the Lin family to be the ruler of the Tiger Claw Galaxy? Little lowly, I say, can you not be so high-profile? Murong looked speechlessly at the little lowly who was carrying a giant axe beside him. At this time, they already knew that they were wanted. However, their appearances didn't change and were still the same as before. This wasn't because Murong wanted to be high-profile or because he wanted to directly contend with the Lin family. It was because of the little lowly. The little lowly wouldn't change her appearance even if she was beaten to death, because she felt that her current appearance was the most beautiful in the world. If she changed her appearance, she would become ugly. Therefore, she wouldn't change her appearance. Moreover, her iconic action of carrying a giant axe was also quite eye-catching. As long as they walked in the Tiger Claw Galaxy, they would definitely be recognized immediately. This was because the little lowly and Murong were inseparable. Therefore, even if he changed his appearance, others would still be able to guess his identity. Therefore, Murong simply didn't change his appearance and didn't do anything that would deceive him. I've already been very low-key and haven't caused any trouble recently. The little lowly looked at Murong with an aggrieved expression. Murong held his forehead with both hands. He felt that it was a mistake for him to know the little lowly. This troublemaker really gave him a headache. Suddenly, Murong's expression changed. Did the Lin clan find us? The little lowly's face was filled with excitement as she held the giant axe in her hand tightly, with a murderous aura. On the other hand, Murong's face was as gloomy as still water. Without saying a word, he grabbed the little lowly and disappeared from where he stood in a flash. Something seemed wrong. Seeing the expression on Murong's face, the little lowly didn't dare to continue asking. At this moment, Murong's expression was quite frightening. This was the first time the little lowly saw Murong like this. Whoosh! When she reappeared, the little lowly found herself in a starry sky. This place seems a little familiar. Isn't this the starry sky where the Holy Realm is? Looking at the familiar place, the little lowly muttered to herself. However, she felt that something was amiss here. It was as if this starry sky was missing something. Moreover, why did Murong return here? The little lowly constantly sized up the surrounding space. After looking for a long time, she finally found out what made her feel that something was wrong. This was the starry sky where the Holy Realm was, but where was the Holy Realm? Where did the Holy Realm go? The Holy Realm was also a planet, but that planet had disappeared. Murong's face was gloomy as he carefully observed this starry sky. After a round of investigation, he didn't find any fragments of a planet nearby, nor were there any fluctuations of a battle. However, The Holy Realm seemed to have disappeared into thin air without leaving any traces behind. Just now, when Murong-Yu was in the Tiger Claw Galaxy, he suddenly felt that his connection with the Holy Realm had suddenly been cut off. He was the ruler of the Holy Realm, so there were only two reasons why his connection with the Holy Realm had been cut off. One was that the Holy Realm was controlled by someone else, and he was no longer the ruler of the Holy Realm. The other possibility was that the Holy Realm had been destroyed. However, from the moment he discovered that his connection had been cut off to the moment he appeared in this starry sky, only a short moment had passed. In such a short time, even if the Holy Realm had been destroyed, there would still be remnants of the explosion. However, there was nothing now. Could have been forcefully taken away by some expert, the little lowly muttered to herself. It seemed like she was speaking for herself, but it also seemed like she was reminding Murong-Yu. Murong-Yu's eyes lit up. What the little lowly said was possible, and it was extremely likely. However, which expert would be interested in the Holy Realm? To be able to leave no traces behind. That person would definitely be much stronger than Lin Hongzhe. In fact, even someone at the peak of the Netherworld realm wouldn't be able to do that. This was because Murong-Yu didn't sense any aura left behind by others in this starry sky. Either no one had come, or the other party was so strong that even if they left behind their aura, Murong-Yu wouldn't be able to see it. If no one had come, the Holy Realm definitely wouldn't have disappeared into thin air. In that case, the other party was definitely so strong that Murong-Yu couldn't see their aura. However, why would such an expert be interested in the Holy Realm? Murong-Xian and the other Soul Jade slips hadn't shattered, which meant that they were still safe for now. However, where had the Holy Realm gone? Murong-Yu's face was extremely gloomy. In the end, he directly sat down in space and began to sense the Holy Realm. On the other side, the little lowly secretly sent out a message. Chapter 2043. At first, Murong-Yu didn't feel anything, other than knowing that Murong-Xian and the others concluded that their lives were not in danger for the time being, because their soul jade slips were not broken. He couldn't sense anything else. As time passed, Murong-Yu's efforts finally paid off. Suddenly, Murong-Yu successfully felt the aura of the Holy World. In fact, he had reconnected with the Holy World. This made Murong-Yu overjoyed. However, this connection was too weak. It was faintly discernible and could be cut off at any time. Moreover, Murong-Yu clearly felt that he was getting further and further away from the Holy World's aura. If the Holy World was really plundered by a certain powerhouse, then that powerhouse must be rapidly leaving the solar system, or even far away from the Milky Way star field. However, Murong-Yu really couldn't figure it out. Why would the other party plunder the Holy World? The Holy World was useless even to cultivators at the Chaotic Realm, let alone those who were almost at the Celestial Realm. When he reconnected with the Holy World's aura, Murong-Yu immediately conveyed his current question to the Holy World's origin. However, the Holy World's origin had no doubts at all. Milky Way star field. After a long time, just when Murong-Yu was about to give up asking, a mosquito-like voice sounded in his ears. It was the voice of the Holy World's origin. Murong-Yu couldn't help but feel excited. However, after this sentence, his connection with the Holy World was cut off again. Murong-Yu tried for a long time again, but this time he still couldn't reconnect with the Holy World. Is it in the Milky Way star field? Murong-Yu slowly opened his eyes, and a cold light flashed across his eyes. It would be easier if it was in the Milky Way star field. After all, the Milky Way star field wasn't very big. However, although the Milky Way star field wasn't big, it wasn't small. There were 10 celestial realm powerhouses and a large number of creation realm powerhouses. Just who had stolen the Saint's world? Where was the other party in the Milky Way star field now? Would the other party leave the Milky Way star field? These were the questions that Murong-Yu urgently wanted to know. This was because he had to find a way to retrieve the Saint's world. Moreover, he had to retrieve the Saint's world before they destroyed it. This was because most of his family and friends were in the Saint's world. However, the prerequisite was that Murong-Yu had to at least reach the Insight realm. This was because only those at the Insight realm could establish and control a small world. Those in the Blessed realm were still unable to control small worlds. After all, even if Morong tried everything he could to obtain the miniature world, he could not just parade the Saint's world around and return it here. Right? Big Baddie, do you have news from the Saint's world? Although Morong's expression was still gloomy, it was no longer as scary as before. Therefore, the little lowly walked over and asked timidly. Morong nodded. If I'm not mistaken, the Holy World should still be in the Milky Way star field. However, I'm still unable to determine the exact location. The little lowly heaved a sigh of relief. She had already received the relevant information. She was about to tell Morong, but Morong already knew. Thus, she did not continue speaking. What we do now? Are we going to retrieve the Saint's world? Yes, we're going to retrieve it. Morong nodded. However, he knew that retrieving the Saint's world would not be easy. Therefore, he did not immediately leave the Saint's world. Instead, he returned to the Flying Wolf Star. The Flying Wolf Star was the Dongfang family's headquarters. At this moment, Dongfang Lang had already consolidated his strength at the first level of the Insight realm and was even stronger than before. As for Dongfang Yuan and the others, they had also broken through to the Insight realm, including Dongfang Lang. The Dongfang family now had a total of 10 Insight realm experts. In terms of a number of Insight realm experts, the Dongfang family had already surpassed the Sun Sect and Lunar Sect. However, the Sun Sect still had a second-level Insight realm expert who had even reached the third level. Therefore, the Dongfang family did not attack the Sun Sect. Instead, they kept a low profile. The Sun Sect expelled Morong. This was nothing to Morong. At that time, his expression did not even change. However, the Sun Sect was helping the Lin family to deal with the Saint's world. This was something that Morong could not tolerate. Previously, he was still worried about the Lin family. Now, he did not have to worry about anything. Therefore, he was ready to deal with the Sun Sect. Master, are we going to destroy the Sun Sect? After hearing Morong's plan, Dongfang Lang and the others were excited. After destroying the Sun Sect, the Dongfang family would dominate the entire solar system and become the ruler of the solar system. Before this was just a dream for Dongfang Lang and the others. Although they had this dream, they knew that they would never be able to turn it into reality. However, everything changed after meeting Morong. They had all broken through to the Insight realm. In the near future, the Dongfang family would unify the solar system and become the only ruler of the solar system. Morong nodded. Then, he led some of the Dongfang family's elite disciples and the little lowly through the Hichu Luoshu's teleportation array and directly teleported to the Sun Star. Su Tian, come out and die. Morong and the others walked out of the Hichu Luoshu one after another and then floated above the Sun Sect. Dongfang Lang let out a loud shout. Who is this? Who wants one of the two ancestors of the Sun Sect, Su Tian, to go out and die? When Dongfang Lang's voice spread across the entire Sun Star, all the cultivators on the Yuan planet were stunned. However, because of what happened to the Lin brothers, Lin Jiafeng and Lin Jiashu, this time, the disciples of the solar system did not jump out arrogantly. Although they were angry, what if the other party was in existence at the level of Lin Jiafeng? Hence, after a few breaths of time, a level 9 elder slowly rushed forward. Moreover, this fellow had a look of reluctance on his face. However, when he saw that it was Dongfang Lang and the others, he flew into a rage. Dongfang Lang, is the Dongfang family courting death? The level 9 elder roared with murderous intent. A huge aura suddenly surged like a stormy sea, wanting to drown Morong and the others. However, Morong and the others were all stronger than this guy. Therefore, when the level 9 elder's huge aura reached Morong and the others, it automatically passed by them and did not affect any of them at all. Slap! Dongfang Yuan took a step forward and cast a disdainful glance at the LV9 elder. Then he slapped the LV9 elder hard on the face and sent him flying. The level 9 elder was stunned, and so were the many Sun sect cultivators who looked up from below. Look, isn't that Morong Yu? At this time, someone finally recognized Morong Yu. Previously, because Morong Yu was only in the manifestation realm, no one noticed him at all. Morong Yu was actually in cahoots with the Dongfang family? What were the Dongfang family doing here? Did they want to destroy the solar system? Many of the Sun sect disciples had this thought in their minds. But soon, they shook their heads. The Dongfang family was not the Lin family. What right did they have to destroy the Sun sect? The Sun sect was the ruler of the solar system. You are too presumptuous. An angry roar was heard, and a dozen figures rushed up. After realizing that it was only the Dongfang family, the Sun sect elders were no longer afraid of trouble. They rushed up one by one and looked at the Dongfang family with murderous intent. Each of them was like a prehistoric beast that was about to devour a human. Presumptuous? I'll let you know what it means to be presumptuous later. Dongfang Yuan sneered and instantly released the terrifying aura of the Insight Realm. Bang! 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 In an instant, the level 9 elders of the Sun sect were sent flying like broken cotton. Furthermore, this time, Dongfang Yuan had used some of his strength and directly injured the level 9 elder. Insight Realm. The level 9 elders' faces changed drastically. The gap between the peak of the Manifestation Realm and the Insight Realm was extremely terrifying. Even if they joined forces, they could not withstand a single blow from Dongfang Yuan. If Dongfang Yuan wanted to, he could kill them directly. It was just like how Su Tian suppressed Elder Duan Han. Humph! A cold snort was heard, and then a young man appeared in front of Morong Yu and the others. It was Ancestor Su Tian, one of the 2 ancestors of the Sun sect. Morong Yu, you actually managed to escape? But since you dare to appear in front of me, I'll take you and offer you to the Lin family. Su Tian gave Morong Yu a deep look. His face was filled with disdain as he extended his hand to grab Morong Yu. Dongfang Lang and the others were about to block Su Tian's attack, but Morong Yu shook his head. Dongfang Lang and the others quickly retreated to the side. They all knew how terrifying Morong Yu's strength was. Therefore, they all looked at Ancestor Su Tian with pity. Ancestor Su Tian sneered again and again. He looked down on Dongfang Lang and the others, not to mention a genius like Morong Yu. So what if Morong Yu was a genius? The gap between the 2 sides was too big. Kneel down. Su Tian's hand was about to grab Morong Yu. At this moment, Morong Yu shouted. Plop! Ancestor Su Tian's mind suddenly shook. In the next moment, he directly knelt down in the void, facing Morong Yu. Hua! Seeing this scene, everyone on the Sunstar was shocked. Why did Su Tian kneel? And the one kneeling was Morong Yu, a rank 2 Creation Realm cultivator? Could it be that Morong Yu was stronger than him? But how could Morong Yu be stronger than him? You? Su Tian was enraged as he looked at Morong Yu with a red face. At the same time, he started struggling. However, a powerful aura that made him despair enveloped his body, making him unable to move. He couldn't break free at all. Chapter 2044. The disciples of the Sun sect were shocked, but Su Tian was terrified. The aura suppressing him made him feel terrified. It was incomparably terrifying. He had never encountered such a terrifying existence before. Even the divine heaven ancestor of the Sun sect wasn't this powerful. He was at least at the 3rd stage of the Netherworld realm, or even at the 4th stage. However, Morong Yu was only at the 2nd stage of the creation realm. How could he have such terrifying power? Could it be that there was a great figure behind him? The one suppressing him was that great figure? Su Tian's expression was complicated as he looked at Morong Yu in horror. Thousands of thoughts flashed through his mind, and he was speechless. Looking at Su Tian kneeling in front of him, Morong Yu recalled the scene of him being suppressed by Su Tian and thrown into the sun cave. Immediately after, a dull feeling appeared in his heart. His strength had far surpassed Su Tian's. This guy wasn't his match at all. However, not only did this guy suppress him and Elder Duan Han, but he also wanted to kill them. Moreover, this guy was an accomplice of the Lin family. He helped the Lin family find the holy world and wanted to destroy it. This kind of person absolutely couldn't be left alive. Thus, a cold light flashed through Morong Yu's eyes. He was about to kill ancestor Su Tian. At this moment, Su Tian's heart was suddenly enveloped by an extremely strong aura of death. Furthermore, he could feel the sharp killing intent radiating from Morong Yu's body. Morong Yu wanted to kill him. Su Tian was shocked and quickly begged for mercy. Morong Yu, you can't kill me. I didn't kill you back then. Seeing Su Tian beg for mercy, Dongfang Lang and the others revealed looks of ridicule and disdain. On the other hand, the Sun Sect's disciples looked at Su Tian and Morong Yu with complicated expressions. Morong Yu's strength had exceeded all of their expectations. Originally, Morong Yu was a disciple of the Sun Sect and was one of them. Morong Yu's strength should have been enough to make them happy. However, Morong Yu was expelled from Solar Sect. The main culprit was none other than Ancestor Void Heaven. If it wasn't for Su Tian, then Morong Yu would still be a member of the Solar Sect. How could something like this have happened? The current Morong Yu not only made it difficult for them to look up to him, but he was also their enemy. In the face of such a powerful and monstrous enemy, many people felt despair. It was even to the extent that some people started to resent Su Tian. Thus, when they saw Su Tian's performance, some people started to sneer in their hearts. There was no sympathy, no solidarity, only mockery. Hearing this, Morong Yu revealed a look of realization. So you didn't kill me back then. You only sealed me and threw me into the sun cave. Su Tian nodded repeatedly. Yes, that's right. That was how I let you go back then. Therefore, you cannot kill me. Good. I won't kill you. Su Tian immediately relaxed. However, what Morong Yu said next made his hair stand on end. I will also seal your power and throw you into the cave of the sun. How about it? I'm magnanimous, right? As he spoke, Morong Yu completely sealed Su Tian's power. Only someone stronger than Morong Yu could undo his seal. Otherwise, it would be impossible to undo it. Morong Yu, wait. Just as Morong Yu was about to throw Ancestor Su Tian into the cave of the sun, a deep voice rang out. Immediately after, a middle-aged man stepped into the air from the depths of the Solar Sect and stood in front of Morong Yu. Senior Martial Brother, save me. Ancestor Su Tian immediately shouted when he saw this person. This person was one of the two Dark Insight Realm ancestors of the Solar Sect, Ancestor Shen Tian. Shen Tian only glanced at Su Tian indifferently before looking at Morong Yu. Morong Yu, for my sake, please let Su Tian go. Morong Yu shook his head and looked at Shen Tian. He discovered that Shen Tian was much stronger than Su Tian. This was because Shen Tian was a powerful existence at the third level of the Dark Insight Realm. If Morong Yu hadn't appeared, Shen Tian would definitely be the strongest existence in the solar system. However, in front of Morong Yu, Shen Tian was still nothing. Morong Yu was a terrifying existence that could even exhaust a 5th-level Dark Insight Realm expert to death. You should be Shen Tian, right? I didn't immediately kill Su Tian and only threw him into the cave of the sun. This is already giving you face. The reason why Su Tian didn't kill me back then was because of you, right? Morong Yu said indifferently while looking at Shen Tian. With Morong Yu's intelligence and wisdom, how could he not think of this? If Shen Tian hadn't secretly stopped him, Su Tian would have already killed them. Therefore, Morong Yu didn't immediately kill Su Tian. This was already giving Shen Tian face. Shen Tian's eyes turned cold, and he revealed a displeased expression. He originally thought that if he stepped forward, Morong Yu would give him face and let Su Tian go. Although he didn't really care about Su Tian was his junior brother after all. However, he didn't expect Morong Yu to ignore him. What if I want to save Su Tian? Shen Tian said indifferently. His tone had already turned cold. Morong Yu looked deeply at Shen Tian and said, if you insist on saving Su Tian, then the two of you will definitely die. Shen Tian's heart turned cold for no reason. How about this? If you can take one move from me, not only will I let Su Tian go, but I will also write off everything that happened in the past. However, if you can't take one move from me, then I will definitely kill Su Tian, and you will have to acknowledge me as your master." Hiss! Everyone couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. They all felt that Murong was too arrogant and condescending. Although Shun Tian and Su Tian were two ancestors of the Sun sect, how could Su Tian compare to Shun Tian? Murong could suppress Su Tian without making a move, but could he defeat Shun Tian in one move? A hint of hesitation flashed across Shun Tian's face. Meanwhile, Su Tian looked at Shun Tian anxiously. In his heart, Shun Tian was still much stronger than Murong. Therefore, Su Tian hoped that Shun Tian would agree. "Senior brother, agree to him." Su Tian impatiently urged Shun Tian. Shun Tian's eyes flickered with anger. Murong was definitely looking down on him. He was a powerful existence at the third level of the profound underworld realm. How could he not be able to take one move from Murong? Was Murong humiliating him? "All right, I agree, but I hope you can keep your promise." Shun Tian suppressed the anger in his heart and said coldly. As he spoke, he soared into the sky once again. When he stopped again, he had already raised his strength to the limit. He couldn't relax. If he couldn't take one move from Murong, not only would Su Tian die, but he would also become Murong slave. Murong took a step forward and appeared in front of Shun Tian again. "Are you ready?" "I'm ready to make my move." Shun Tian didn't say anything and only nodded slightly. Therefore, Murong lightly slapped out with his palm. Seeing this, the people from the Sun sect felt dizzy. This was because they really couldn't see how much power Murong's palm contained. Could it be that Murong had already decided to let go of Su Tian? Did he make this request just to find a way out? This thought appeared in the minds of many disciples of the Sun sect. However, Dongfang Lang and the others looked at Murong and Shun Tian without any change in expression. As Murong's slaves, they were clear about Murong's character. If he wanted Shun Tian to become his slave, then Shun Tian would definitely become his slave. As the person involved, Shun Tian's expression was extremely solemn. The more this was the case, the more vigilant he had to be. Murong's speed was very fast, but he still arrived in front of Shun Tian in the end. At this moment, Shun Tian finally made his move. He threw a punch at Murong. Unlike Murong's light movements that didn't contain any energy fluctuations, Shun Tian's punch contained a terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth. Bang! In the blink of an eye, a fist and a palm had already collided fiercely in the void. After an earth-shattering explosion, everyone saw a figure being sent flying far away like a broken rag doll. On the other hand, the figure on the other side was like an ancient mountain standing still on the spot. Everyone's pupils constricted. Then, a look of horror appeared on their faces. This was because they clearly saw that the person standing still on the spot was Murong. The person who was sent flying was Shun Tian ancestor. Poof! After Shun Tian smashed through a large part of the void, he finally regained his balance. However, after he regained his balance, he spat out a large mouthful of blood. He had lost. He couldn't even take a single blow from Murong. He had completely lost. Everyone who saw this scene was speechless. Impossible. Shun Tian, did you lose on purpose? With your strength, how could you lose? Su Tian roared with a ferocious look on his face. Hearing this, everyone looked at Su Tian with disdain. It was Su Tian who had asked Shun Tian to accept the bet. However, when Shun Tian lost, he thought that Shun Tian had lost on purpose. How did he cultivate to the profound underworld realm with such a mentality? Shun Tian's expression was unsightly. He was already upset that he had lost to Murong and was about to become Murong's slave. However, Su Tian was still chirping here. Did he think that he wanted to lose and become Murong's slave? Murong looked at Shun Tian and smiled faintly. Shun Tian, I hope you won't go back on your words. Shun Tian walked over with a complicated expression. I admit defeat. From now on, I will be your slave, and you will be my master. From today onwards, you will be the sect leader of the Sun sect. Good. Before Murong you could say anything, a loud roar came from the Sun sect. Good. Murong, you will be the sect leader of our Sun sect. That's great. The Sun sect's disciples seemed to have been infected and started cheering. Shintian was stunned. He didn't think that Murong would be so popular in the Sun sect. Not only did the Sun sect disciples not resist, they were even excited. Everyone worshipped the strong. Not only did Murong defeat Su Tian and Shintian, but he was also an absolute genius and broke the record of Tong Tian Tower. The Sun sect's disciples weren't fools. They could feel that following Murong, the Sun sect would definitely shine brightly in the future. Chapter 2045. Just like that, Murong became a disciple of the Sun sect. Everything went so smoothly that it exceeded Murong-Yu's expectations. However, Su Tian wasn't as happy as everyone else. At this moment, Su Tian was filled with regret. If it weren't for what happened back then, how could he have offended Murong? If he hadn't offended Murong, how could he have become Murong-Yu's prisoner? How could he have been executed? It's all that bastard Li Jiang's fault. Su Tian gnashed his teeth and cursed Li Jiang in his heart. If Li Jiang hadn't died, Su Tian would have personally sent him on his way. Murong, no, Lord, I can also recognize you as my master and become your slave. With my strength, I should be able to help you a lot. Ancestor Su Tian suddenly said to Murong with a flattering smile. Everyone was stunned when they heard this, and then all of them looked at Su Tian with disdain. This guy was truly despicable. A dignified, profound, underworld realm powerhouse was actually so spineless. Noticing everyone's gaze, Su Tian's expression didn't change. However, he sneered in his heart. In front of life, dignity and backbone are all fleeting clouds. As long as I'm alive, dignity and backbone can be recovered. These bastards, once I save my life, I'll slowly deal with you in the future. Murong was stunned for a moment before looking at Su Tian and slowly saying, Su Tian, you're willing to become my slave? I'm willing. Su Tian greets Lord. With that, Su Tian kowtowed to Murong. Seeing such a spineless Su Tian, Shun Tian's expression became very unsightly. Was this still his junior brother? This was simply too shameful. It was a shame that he had associated with such a person before. Thinking this, Shintian couldn't help but take a few steps to the side, distancing himself from Su Tian. Sect Master, you absolutely can't have this person. This person is narrow-minded and vengeful. Furthermore, he's trying to curry favor with the Lin family. Previously, when we were cooperating with the Lin family, he was helping the tyrant and blindly currying favor with the Lin family at the expense of the solar sect's benefits. An indescribable smile appeared on Murong-Yu's face when he saw this person. This person was none other than his clone, Dragon Murong. As for Murong Long, it was entirely Murong-Yu's idea to make an appearance. He wanted to use this opportunity to let his clone appear in front of everyone. Then in the future, he would slowly nurture his clone, and in the end, his clone would take control of the Sun sect. Yes, this person is absolutely unacceptable. I suggest that we suppress him in the depths of the Sun Cavern for all eternity. Another disciple stepped forward. Let's just kill him. He's in existence at the Netherworld realm, after all. Once he escapes and returns to take revenge, we'll be in trouble. Kill him. Kill him. In an instant, many people began to shout. All of them wanted to kill Su Tian. Su Tian's expression was very ugly as he looked at Dragon Murong and the others with murderous intent. He hated these people to the bone. He decided that he would definitely kill these bastards in the future. Su Tian, do you really want to kill them? A voice suddenly rang in Su Tian's ears. At this moment, Su Tian was thinking about how to kill Dragon Murong and the others. He immediately nodded. However, after nodding, he immediately reacted. It's over. Su Tian's expression suddenly changed. Sure enough, countless gazes filled with killing intent focused on him with a swish sound. Originally, there were some people who didn't agree or oppose killing Su Tian, but Su Tian's actions made all of the Sun sect's disciples want to slap him to death. Su Tian, You're actually so cruel? In that case, there's no need for you to become my disciple. I'll send you on your way. Morong Yu indifferently said, then flicked his finger. Pooh! Su Tian didn't even have time to speak before his entire body turned into a bloody mist. Even his soul was destroyed by Morong Yu. Good death. Seeing Su Tian die, a disciple of the Sun sect immediately shouted. The others also clapped their hands in joy. Only Dongfang Lang and the others looked at Morong Yu with admiration. Originally, it was inevitable that the Sun sect's disciples wouldn't accept Morong Yu killing Su Tian. However, Morong Yu provoked the conflict between the Sun sect and Su Tian, then killed Su Tian in one fell swoop. This way, not only did no one refuse, but they also clapped their hands in joy. After Morong Yu became the sect master of the Sun sect, he didn't do anything to the Sun sect. Instead, he led the Dongfang family and the Sun sect's army towards the Lunar sect. After the Dongfang family destroyed the other 9 factions, the Sun sect only had 3 factions left: the Dongfang family, the Sun sect, and the Lunar sect. The Dongfang family and the Sun sect had already become Morong Yu's subordinates. If the Sun sect and the Dongfang family wanted to truly unify the solar system, then they had to eliminate the Lunar sect. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. When Morong Yu and the others arrived outside the Lunar sect was already prepared for battle. One after another, experts rushed out. Looking from afar, almost all of them were beauties. However, at this moment, these women were looking at Morong Yu and the others with hatred. Among them, the demonic woman was also among them. At this moment, she was looking at Morong Yu with a complicated expression. No one knew what she was thinking. Morong Yu, are you going to kill the Lunar sect? The Sun sect was a faction that was only second to the Sun sect in the past. Their intelligence network was still very powerful. Thus, they already knew that Morong Yu had become the sect master of the Sun sect. Morong Yu stepped out from the crowd and looked calmly at the middle-aged woman who spoke. A level 1 Netherworld realm cultivator was quite powerful in the Sun sect. He should be the only Netherworld realm ancestor in the Lunar sect. The middle-aged woman instantly became nervous when Morong Yu looked at her. She knew how powerful the Divine Heaven Ancestor was. Even the Divine Heaven Ancestor couldn't block a single attack from Morong Yu, let alone her. Don't be nervous. I'm not going to kill you. Morong Yu suddenly laughed. Then what are you doing here? We don't welcome you here. A level 9 elder of the Lunar sect took a step forward and shouted at Morong Yu. How dare you? Shen Tian took a step forward and shouted. Thud, thud, thud. The level 9 elder almost spat out a mouthful of blood after being glared at by Shen Tian. How could a mere level 9 creation realm cultivator like her fight against a level 3 netherworld realm cultivator? This was because Shen Tian didn't want to kill her. Otherwise, she would definitely be killed by Shen Tian's glare. The expressions of the Lunar sect members darkened. In fact, there was even a hint of fear in their eyes. However, no one retreated because of this. They continued to glare at Morong Yu and the others angrily. Demonic woman, come here. Morong Yu's gaze focused on Yulan. Before the demonic woman could even react, a wave of energy had already wrapped around her body and pulled her to a spot not far away from Morong Yu. Stinking brat, what do you want? The demonic woman glared at Morong Yu. The Lunar sect members behind her couldn't help but feel dizzy when they heard the demonic woman's words. Wasn't the demonic woman a little too bold? She actually dared to call Morong Yu a stinking brat. Wasn't she afraid that he would slap her to death? Under the worried expressions of the Lunar sect members, Morong Yu smiled faintly and said, Demonic woman, are you willing to become the sect leader of the Lunar sect? The demonic woman was stunned. The Lunar sect members were also stunned. Even Shen Tian, Dongfang Lang, and the others were stunned. None of them knew what Morong Yu wanted to do. What did he mean by this? If you become the sect leader of the Lunar sect, my force definitely won't interfere with your Lunar sect. The galaxy of your Lunar sect will still belong to your Lunar sect. However, with our relationship, if your Lunar sect encounters any trouble, I can help you. If you're unwilling, I won't kill you. However, I won't interfere with your lunar sect, either. Even if your lunar sect is destroyed, I won't interfere. Everyone was confused. They didn't know what Muronyu was planning. Of course, there's a third option. Your lunar sect can join my force. However, after that, the lunar sect will cease to exist. Muronyu smiled faintly. The demonic woman was stunned. She didn't know what to say. Thus, she glanced at the people behind her. How about this? I'll give you 3 days. After 3 days, I want an answer. Thus, the demonic woman and the others returned. My lord, why are you doing this instead of destroying the lunar sect? Shintian walked over and asked in confusion. Dongfang Lang and the others also looked at Muronyu with puzzled gazes. After all, the solar system is just a remote galaxy. Our Shenzhen sect won't stay in one corner. The Milky Way star field, and even the wider galaxy, is the stage of our Shenzhen sect. The solar system is just a stepping stone, Muronyu said calmly. Everyone's eyes lit up, especially Dongfang Lang and the others. They all knew about the people of the Rising Sun Dao Palace. They knew that Muronyu wasn't bluffing. I wanted to lead the solar sect out of the solar system for a long time. However, I was limited by my abilities. Shintian scratched the back of his head and chuckled embarrassedly. However, he was still very excited. 3 days later, the demonic woman and the others came again. At this time, the demonic woman had already become the sect leader of the lunar sect. Muronyu wasn't surprised by this. He already knew that the lunar sect would make this choice. Thus, Muronyu returned to the Sun Star. The first moment he returned, Muronyu announced to the entire solar system, from today onwards, the Dongfang family and the solar system will officially merge. The new force will be renamed as the Chaos Shenzhen. The Chaos Shenzhen. From now on, the solar sect and the Dongfang family officially became history. The Shenzhen sect, which was prosperous and powerful in the Holy World, began to take root in the solar system. In the end, it flourished and developed. Could it unify the entire chaos? After the announcement, Muronyu brought his slaves and entered the Rising Sun Dao Palace again. If he wanted to find the Holy World, he had to be powerful. Otherwise, everything would be meaningless. Chapter 2046. At the outermost area of the Shenyang Dao Mansion, a layer of ripples suddenly appeared in the void. Then a crack was torn in the void, and a figure stepped out of the crack. The person was none other than Muronyu. After Muronyu appeared, he looked around. After realizing that there was nothing unusual in the Shenyang Dao Mansion, he waved his hand. Then, figures stepped out of the void one after another. There were about 100 of them. Among them were Shun Tian, who was originally the most powerful ancestor in the Sun sect. There were also Dongfang Lang and other newly advanced Insight Realm experts. Other than the experts from the Dongfang family who had entered the Shenyang Dao Mansion, there were more level 9 and level 8 elders from the Dongfang family and the Sun sect who had entered the Shenyang Dao Mansion. These people were Murongyu's confidants. They would be the backbone of the Chaos Shenzhen's rise in the endless starry sky. Of course, these people who could enter the Shenyang Dao Mansion had their souls controlled by Muronyu and became Murongyu's slaves. It was not that Muronyu wanted to control them or that he did not trust them. It was just that the Shenyang Dao Mansion was too shocking. If one of the people who entered the Shenyang Dao Mansion accidentally leaked the information, Muronyu would be faced with a disaster. That was why Muronyu had taken control of their souls. Of course, there was one exception. That person was Little Loli. Muronyu trusted Little Loli from the bottom of his heart because he knew her well. Because he understood her, the Little Loli would never betray him. Moreover, with Little Loli's background, it would not be easy for others to obtain her memories. The Shenyang Dao Mansion strictly separates each realm, and each realm corresponds to a region. Find the corresponding region yourselves and try your best to raise your strength to the highest level within the limited time. Muronyu instructed. Then, Shun Tian and the others turned into streaks of light and disappeared from where they stood. Murong, we're leaving too. Zhao Jiqing walked up slowly and looked at Muronyu affectionately. Then, she turned into a stream of light and disappeared from Murong Yu's sight. Yu Mengqing, Mu Liyue, Kurlan, and Situ Xian also left quickly. Only Murong Yu and little Loli were left on the spot. This time, Murong Yu finally brought Zhao, Jiqing, and the others into the Shenyang Dao mansion. Murong Yu didn't hide anything about the holy world from the five girls. It was also because of this that the five women did not have any romantic feelings for Murong Yu and instead focused on cultivating. Because of the Shenyang Dao of the Shenyang Dao mansion shrouding the Shenyang Dao mansion. He did not know who this person was. Their connection to the saint's world was vague, and the He Tu and the inscription of the Luo had no connection to the teleportation points in the saint's world at all. Therefore, time was tight. Murong Yu did not hesitate. He also needed to use the shortest time to raise his strength to the highest level. It would be best if he could break through to the insight realm. By then, he would have a strength of a Genesis realm. Little Loli, what are you thinking about? Let's go. Murong Yu called out to little Loli, who had been deep in thought since she entered the Shenyang Dao mansion. The little Loli took a deep look at Murong Yu and said, "Big scoundrel, you've really picked up a treasure. Do you know the origin of this Shenyang Dao mansion? What level is this Shenyang Dao mansion? Is it a Genesis realm or a celestial realm? Maybe it's an existence beyond the celestial realm?" Murong Yu's heart skipped a beat. Little Loli shrugged. "I don't know. However, this Shenyang Dao mansion is definitely a place that countless cultivators are jealous of. You found a treasure." Murong Yu could not help but feel a little depressed. He could clearly feel that little Loli knew something, but little Loli did not seem to be willing to say. However, it did not matter. He would eventually find out what level this Shenyang Dao mansion was. Therefore, he grabbed little Loli and rushed into the depths of the Shenyang Dao mansion. However, the little Loli stopped when she reached the blessed stage area. Her strength had not reached the insight realm, so she could not enter the insight realm. When they stopped, the little Loli looked at Murong Yu with an unwilling gaze. "Big baddie, I'll definitely surpass you. I'll definitely go deeper than you." Murong Yu shrugged his shoulders and continued to venture deeper into the cave. So what if little Loli surpassed him? He wasn't someone who was competitive. Last time, Murong Yu hadn't been able to enter the blessed realm and had been stopped at the blessed realm area. But now, he was going straight ahead. The invisible barrier that originally existed automatically parted when he passed by, allowing Murong Yu to pass through easily. Rumble. Murong Yu had just stepped into the insight realm area when waves of extremely rich origin energy of heaven and earth rushed toward him like raging waves. Even if he did not take the initiative to absorb the origin energy of heaven and earth, the origin energy of heaven and earth frantically entered through the pores all over his body. This yuan qi of heaven and earth is enough to allow an ordinary netherworld realm expert to break through to the creation realm without needing any other natural treasures or pills. Murong Yu's face was filled with shock when he sensed the incomparably dense yuan qi of heaven and earth. If the time it took for a profound underworld realm elite to break through to the Genesis realm was 10 years, then cultivating here would only take 1 year, or at most 2 years. Moreover, in addition to the rich origin energy of heaven and earth, there would also be various supreme cultivation techniques and the cultivation experiences of seniors. There were also terrifying, ferocious beasts for cultivators to cultivate. Under such circumstances, even an insight realm cultivator who was originally unable to break through to the creation realm in his lifetime would quickly break through. Just like Dongfang Lang from before, he only cultivated here for a period of time and then successfully broke through. However, these were only useful to ordinary people. They were of no use to Murong Yu at all. Therefore, Murong Yu did not stay for long. Instead, he started walking and found the palace in the insight realm area. All kinds of treasures, pills, origin tools, cultivation techniques, cultivation experiences, and so on were the same as the creation realm area. Treasures, pills, cultivation techniques, and so on were not attractive to Murong Yu. Therefore, He went straight into the treasury where the origin crystals were stored. Supreme-grade origin crystals. They were all supreme-grade origin crystals, piled up like mountains, emitting extremely rich origin energy of heaven and earth. Murong Yu went straight in, then sat cross-legged in the middle of the supreme-grade origin crystals, and then opened his mouth. Pieces of origin crystals rapidly shrank, and like a torrent, they were sucked into Murong Yu's body and transferred into the primal chaos furnace. The primal chaos furnace was already operating, refining a large number of supreme-grade origin crystals that poured in. Murong Yu's power was increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. During this process, the arrest warrant for Murong Yu in the Tiger Claw Galaxy continued. However, Murong Yu seemed to have disappeared into thin air, and no one could find any trace of Murong Yu. It was as if he had never appeared at all. Of course, the Lin family would not let Murong Yu go so easily and continued to hunt him down. It had even spread out of the Tiger Claw Galaxy. Some people from the Lin family entered the solar system again. However, when the people from the Lin family entered the solar system again, it had been 3 years since Murong Yu entered the Shenyang Dao Mansion. 3 years was not a long time, but it was not a short time either. However, Murong Yu and the others who were cultivating in the Shenyang Dao Mansion had undergone earth-shaking changes. Even the Big Eater Murong Yu had made another breakthrough and reached the peak of the 4th level of the creation realm in one fell swoop. Moreover, his cultivation, soul, and physical body had all broken through at the same time. When he reappeared, he was already on the sun. Chapter 2047. Although the Sun sect and the Dongfang family no longer existed and had merged into the Chaos Shenzhen. However, the headquarters of the Chaos Shenzhen was still on the Sun Star. Moreover, the elite disciples of the Dongfang family had all moved to the Sun Star. Therefore, the Sun Star now had more people and was more powerful than before. However, the Sun Star was still vulnerable without a profound underworld powerhouse overseeing it. Therefore, when the Lin family appeared on the Sun Star, they almost directly suppressed the Chaos Shenzhen. The people from the Lin family were Murong Yu's old acquaintances, the two brothers, Lin Jiafeng and Lin Jiashu. However, before the two of them could make a move, Murong Yu had already returned to the Sun Star from the Shenyang Dao Mansion. This was because Murong Yu had already left a power clone on the Sun Star before leaving. Once something like this happened, Murong Yu, who was far away in the Shenyang Dao Mansion, could rush back in time. The teleportation formation from the Tiger Claw Galaxy did not directly lead to the Sun Star. As such, the Lin brothers were already aware of the fact that Murong Yu had unified the solar system. However, for some reason, they did not report this matter. Instead, they went directly to the Sun Star. They wanted to take down Murong Yu. In this way, their future development in the Lin clan would definitely be smooth sailing, and they would be able to achieve meteoric success. However, what they didn't know was that their greedy behavior had completely ruined their lives. Whoosh! After Murong Yu returned from the Shenyang Dao Mansion, he directly soared into the sky and appeared in front of the Lin brothers. The two of them were quite strong, as they had both reached level 2 of the profound underworld. If it was before, no one in the entire solar system would be a match for them, except for Xintian. However, in front of Murong Yu, they were nothing. Murong Yu. The moment they saw Murong Yu, Lin Jiafeng could not help but exclaim. Then, the two of them became excited. It was really a case of traveling far and wide in search of something, only to find it by chance. Before they could make a move, Murong Yu appeared on his own. Boom! At the same time when they were excited, Murong Yu only glanced at them indifferently. Then he shot out a palm towards Lin Jiafeng and Lin Jiafeng. Lin Jiafeng and Lin Jiafeng's faces were filled with disdain because Murong Yu was only at the 4th level of the manifestation realm. The gap between them and him was simply too great. However, they were soon shocked speechless. Before they could even react, Murong Yu's large hand had already grabbed both of them. At the same time, An extremely powerful force surged into their bodies and sealed their powers. Following that, Lin Jiafeng and Lin Jiashu felt a sharp pain in their souls. Lin Jiafeng and the other two immediately reacted. Morongyu was reading their memories. They wanted to resist, but they couldn't. In front of Morongyu, they were just two ants. It didn't take long for Morongyu to read all of their memories without missing a single detail. Just when Lin Jiafeng and Lin Jiashu thought that it was over, they saw Morongyu's face reveal a smile that made them tremble in fear. Before they could react, a sharp pain that penetrated deep into their souls exploded in their minds. The next moment, Lin Jiafeng and Lin Jiashu greet the Lord. Morongyu directly released the seal on their powers, and the two of them immediately greeted Morongyu. It was obvious that Morongyu had controlled their souls, and they had become Morongyu's slaves. Morongyu nodded slightly. You should know what to do now, right? Yes, we'll say that the solar system hasn't changed at all. It's exactly the same as before, and the Lord has never returned to the solar system. He might have escaped to another star system. Lin Jiafeng said respectfully. Very good. The two of you will oversee the solar system for me. If anyone else from the Lin family comes, just send them away, Morongyu instructed. Then, with a wave of his hand, he disappeared once again. At the same time, he also removed the seal that he had set up previously. At this time, below the solar system, Shenzhen's disciples saw the two of them. Originally, Morongyu had wanted to kill Lin Jiafeng and Lin Jiofeng. However, after reading their memories, he changed his mind. He already knew the identities of Lin Zhe and Lin Hongze. The Lin family and him were already enemies. If he killed the two of them, the Lin family would immediately know that Morongyu might have escaped back to the solar system. If that was the case, the Lin family's army would immediately come to the solar system. At that time, the solar system might be directly destroyed. This was something that Morongyu did not want to see. As for imprisoning the two of them, it would be better to directly control their souls and let them guard the solar system. At the same time, they would be Morongyu's pawns in the Lin family. It would be beneficial to Morongyu without any harm. After dealing with the two of them, Morongyu continued to return to the Shenyang Dao mansion. In the following period of time, the matter of the Lin family wanting Morongyu became more and more intense. However, because of the relationship between the two of them, the Lin family did not send anyone to the solar system again. This allowed the solar system to have a rare moment of peace. Time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, 100 years had passed. 100 years might be a lifetime for mortals. However, for the cultivators in the endless starry sky who had no lifespan limit, it was just a matter of the blink of an eye. In 100 years, there were basically no changes in the endless starry sky. However, the people in the Shenyang Dao mansion had undergone earth-shattering changes. The first Genesis realm expert of the primal chaos Shenzhen had appeared. It was none other than Morongyu's first lady, Zhao Jiqing. Zhao Jiqing's aptitude was quite terrifying, and she was only slightly inferior to Morongyu. Therefore, she became the first Genesis realm expert of Shenzhen. In terms of realm, she left Morongyu in the dust. Not only that, but Yu Mengqing, Mu Liyue, Kurlan, Situ Xian, and even little Lolita left Morongyu in the dust. This was because, without exception, they had all reached the peak of the level 9 insight realm. They were only one step away from breaking through to the Genesis realm. Perhaps their aptitudes were slightly inferior to Zhao Jiqing's, even if they had a large number of resources to digest. However, they were still lacking a little bit of comprehension and were unable to take the final step. However, this strength was enough to compete with the Lin family of the Tiger Claw Galaxy. The aptitudes of Zhao Jiqing, the 5 girls, and little Lolita were very heaven-defying. However, the difference between Shun Tian and Dongfang Lang and the others was too great. Although in the Shenyang Dao mansion, Shun Tian and Dongfang Lang had only broken through to the level 6 insight realm, their aptitudes were SOSO. Dongfang Yuan and the others were even worse. The highest among them was only at the level 5 insight realm, and most of them were at the level 3 or level 4 insight realm. However, to have such cultivation in 100 years still made Shintian and the others extremely excited. As their strength continued to increase, they became more and more loyal to Murongyu. Not because of anything else, but because of this increase in strength, they would not betray him, who could help them increase their strength quickly. They all knew that this was just the beginning. As long as they followed Murongyu, their achievements in the future would definitely not be limited to the insight realm. It was possible for them to reach the Genesis realm, or even the Heaven realm. Ha ha ha, big baddie, I'm not wrong, right? I've already surpassed you by 1 major realm and 2 minor realms. Hurry up and kneel down. Little Lolita stood in front of Murongyu with her giant axe and laughed arrogantly. Murongyu rolled his eyes. His appetite was getting bigger and bigger. Originally, he thought that the Insight Realm area in the Shenyangdao Mansion would only allow him to reach the level 6 Creation Realm. However, after 100 years of hard work, he finally managed to break through to the level 7 Creation Realm. However, although he was only at the level 7 Creation Realm, his real combat power was comparable to the level 9 Insight Realm. Even little Lolita was not his opponent. However, in the face of everyone's soaring realms, Murongyu was once again at the bottom of the list. The lowest realm, the level 3 Insight Realm, was many minor realms higher than him. This made Murongyu a little depressed. However, Murongyu was a monster. His combat power was not equivalent to his realm. If they looked down on Murongyu because he was only at the Creation Realm, they would definitely end up in a tragedy. It's time to leave. Murongyu did not pay attention to the arrogant little Lolita and pondered in his heart. In the Shenyangdao Mansion, he could not continue to improve his strength, unless he could enter the region of the Genesis tier, but that was impossible. However, if he left, what would happen to the others? Murongyu intended to let everyone stay here to cultivate, especially Zhao Jiqing. As long as Zhao Jiqing was given a certain amount of time, she might become the 11th Celestial Realm expert in the Milky Way star zone. However, Murongyu was worried that if something happened to him and he died, they could only stay in the Shenyangdao Mansion forever and would not be able to leave. Moreover, the Chaos Shenzhen needed someone to guard it. It would be easier if I could build a teleportation array between Shenzhen and the Shenyangdao Mansion, Murongyu thought in his heart. However, he had tried before, and it was simply impossible. That was because the Shenyangdao Mansion was constantly moving rapidly in the turbulent space. Apart from Hichu Luoshu, it was impossible to build a teleportation array. It's not very good for the Foundation to blindly improve one's realm. Then let's leave the Shenyangdao Mansion first. Murongyu finally decided and led everyone out of the Shenyangdao Mansion. Something happened to Master? As soon as he appeared on the Sun Star, Murongyu received a message, and his expression changed drastically. It was an urgent message for help sent by Elder Duanhan. Elder Duanhan had helped Murongyu a lot. Since he was in danger, Murongyu naturally could not sit back and do nothing. Moreover, he was worried that he did not know when this message was sent. After all, he did not know if the Shenyangdao Mansion would block this message. Chapter 2048. Based on Murongyu's understanding of Elder Duanhan, Elder Duanhan would never ask for help unless it was a matter of life and death. In other words, when Elder Duanhan decided to ask for help, he was already in a life and death crisis. If the transmission of the message was blocked by the Rising Sundao Mansion, Elder Duanhan would have been killed at this time. Moreover, Murongyu did not have Elder Duanhan's soul jade slip. It was not that he did not want it, but Elder Duanhan did not give it to him at all. According to Elder Duanhan, he did not want Murongyu to worry about him, and he did not want to affect Murongyu. This was truly an emergency. Murongyu was praying now. He received the message for help sent by Elder Duanhan immediately, and he did not receive it after being blocked by the Rising Sundao Mansion for a while. Because Elder Duanhan was in danger, there was no time to delay. Therefore, Murongyu hurriedly arranged Shenzhen's affairs, then took little Loli and directly teleported away. Other than little Lowly, he did not bring anyone else. Even the femme fatale and the big black dog were the same. The reason why he brought little Lowly was that little Lowly had been sticking to him, and Murong you could not get rid of her at all. Fortunately, Master has a teleportation point for me, Murong Yu thought in his heart. Hichu Luoshu had directly teleported to Elder Duan Hun's side. Strictly speaking, it was not beside Elder Duan Hun, but near the teleportation point that he gave Elder Duan Hun. This made Murong Yu feel a little lucky. Otherwise, if he teleported slowly, it would be too late. Murong Yu appeared in an incomparably bustling city. People were coming and going, making the place very lively. Murong Yu appeared in a remote alley in this city, and Elder Duan Hun was not nearby. Murong Yu's face was a little gloomy as he found the teleportation point that he gave Elder Duan Hun in a corner of the alley. The teleportation point had already been shattered into pieces. Fortunately, the teleportation array in the teleportation point was not damaged. Otherwise, Murong Yu would not have been able to teleport over. However, even though he had teleported over, the situation seemed to be very serious. Even the teleportation point had been destroyed. What had Elder Broken Soul encountered? Murong Yu's eyes flashed with traces of cold light, and the time laws immediately revolved. Tracing back to the origin, the scene in the alleyway was moving backwards rapidly. Finally, not long after, Murong Yu saw Elder Duan Hun in this alley. At that time, Elder Duan Hun was bathed in blood and was in the middle of a great battle with over a dozen powerhouses. However, the disparity in strength between the two sides was too great. No matter how Elder Duan Hun tried to break out of the encirclement, he was still heavily injured in the end and was captured by the other side. Seeing this, Murong Yu breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. After all, Elder Duan Hun had not been killed yet. As long as Elder Duan Hun didn't die, no matter how serious his injuries were, it wouldn't be a problem. But what Murong Yu wasn't sure was when Elder Duan Hun was captured. Would something happen after he was captured? And who was his enemy? He took a step forward, and when he appeared again, he was already on the turbulent street outside. After half a day, he finally found out about Elder Duan Hun. It was a bit melodramatic, but it really happened. Murong Yu is now in a place called the 100 Apertures Galaxy, and Elder Duan Hun was originally a rogue cultivator in the 100 Apertures Galaxy. Many years ago, he fell in love with the daughter of a 7th grade family leader in the 100 Apertures Galaxy. This was supposed to be a story of a loser turning the tables on a fair, rich, and beautiful girl. However, because Elder Duan Hun was a rogue cultivator and his strength was very low, the 7th grade family wouldn't agree at all. Therefore, they broke up the couple and almost killed Elder Duan Hun. With the help of his lover, Elder Duan Hun managed to escape in time. He escaped to the solar system and concealed his identity. However, Elder Duan Hun still didn't forget their old relationship. After breaking through to the nether state, he returned to the 100 Apertures Galaxy again. However, his strength was still not enough. Not long after he returned, he had a conflict with the 7th grade family. In the end, he was taken down by the powerhouses of the 7th grade family. Moreover, Murong Yu also found out that his fiancée really liked Elder Duan Hun. Everything was because of that 7th grade family. How many melodramatic things happen in this world every day? Murong Yu shook his head helplessly. However, even if it was 10 times more melodramatic, he still had to take care of this matter. 7th grade family? In the 100 Apertures Galaxy, a 7th grade family was actually a family with a 7th grade nether state powerhouse overseeing it. Among them, a 1st grade family in force was the lowest, and a 9th grade family was the highest. And a family in force without a nether state powerhouse overseeing it were all mediocre forces. With Murong Yu's current strength, he naturally didn't fear a mere 7th grade family. Therefore, he unfolded his body and walked toward the Huang family. The city Murong Yu was in was the Huang family's headquarters. The Huang family was in the center of the city. Invisibility. Murong Yu hid his body and swaggered into the Huang family's gate. The people of the Huang family didn't notice anything. Not to mention the disciples of the Huang family who were guarding the gate. Even the strongest old ancestor of the Huang family couldn't notice Murong Yu. Murong Yu didn't extend his divine thought to search for Elder Duanhan. Instead, he grabbed a disciple of the Huang family and read his soul directly. Bastard! Murong Yu furiously roared in his heart. He was truly enraged right now. This was because ever since Elder Duanhan was captured by the Huang family, he had been tortured and abused by the Huang family every day. At this moment, Elder Duanhan had been tortured until he was half dead. Moreover, the Huang family would officially execute Elder Duanhan 3 days later. This made Murong Yu's killing intense surge. If he came a few days later, he might only be able to collect Elder Duanhan's corpse. Let's go and see Master's wife first. Murong Yu originally planned to go directly to the Huang family's prison to rescue Elder Duanhan directly. But halfway through, he suddenly changed his mind. If the Master's wife was really in love with Master and was willing to be with Elder Duanhan, Murong Yu would definitely fulfill their wish. But if that wasn't the case, Murong Yu would have wiped out the Huang family with a single slap. According to the memory of the Huang family disciple, Murong Yu came to the courtyard where Huang Yaqian was. However, he didn't find Huang Yaqian. Moreover, Huang Yaqian's courtyard seemed to have been empty for many days. Murong Yu was puzzled. He searched the entire Huang family, but he still couldn't find any trace of Huang Yaqian. Even if he read the memories of a few Nether State experts, he still couldn't find any trace of Huang Yaqian. However, the memories of those people made Murong Yu more satisfied with Huang Yaqian, who was his master's wife. Those people's memories were filled with disgust and confusion towards Huang Yaqian, because they couldn't understand why Huang Yaqian would like that Duanhan who had nothing. It was simply a mismatch between their families. Since he didn't find Huang Yaqian, Murong Yu directly entered the Huang family's prison and came to Elder Duanhan's cell. At this time, Elder Duanhan's body was in a bad condition, and his strength had long been sealed. He was tortured to the point of dying. If this continued, even if the Huang family didn't execute Elder Duanhan, he wouldn't have many days left to live. Even if Murong Yu showed his figure, Elder Duanhan still didn't notice anything and was still unconscious. Murong Yu was naturally enraged. He hurriedly sent a torrent of life force into Elder Duanhan's body. At the same time, he also unsealed Elder Duanhan's strength. Boom! At this moment, Elder Duanhan suddenly opened his eyes and threw a punch at Murong Yu at the same time. Murong Yu grabbed Elder Duanhan's fist and said in a deep voice, "Master, it's me." Hearing that, Elder Duanhan glanced at Murong Yu with his dim eyes, then rolled his eyes and fainted again. What kind of torture was it that made a dark insight expert so weak? The anger in Murong Yu's heart burned, and an even greater amount of life force surged into Elder Duanhan's body like a stormy wave. In a short while, Elder Duanhan's physical body recovered to its peak and was even stronger than before. However, Elder Duanhan still didn't wake up. Physical injuries were easy to recover, but mental injuries couldn't be healed by Murong Yu. Therefore, Elder Duanhan slowly woke up after half a day. "Murong Yu, I'm really sorry to trouble you." Elder Duanhan looked at Murong Yu apologetically. Murong Yu shook his head. "You're my master, and this is what I should do as your disciple. However, since you've recovered, shouldn't we ask the Huang family for an explanation?" A terrifying cold light flashed across Elder Duanhan's eyes, but after looking at Murong Yu, he shook his head again. The Huang family is a 7th-rank family after all, and we're no match for them at all. "Master, as long as you say it, are you willing to take back your fiancée? As long as you say it, even if it's a 9th-rank family, I'll turn it upside down, let alone a 7th-rank family." Elder Duanhan's eyes lit up. "You really have such strength?" Murong Yu nodded affirmatively. "Ha ha ha!" Elder Duanhan immediately laughed. "In that case, let's turn it upside down. Damn it, didn't the Huang family look down on me? Today, I'll show them our strength. Although I'm not strong enough, I have an abnormal disciple." "Duanhan, what are you arguing about? Are you courting death?" Elder Duan Hun's laughter attracted the disciples of the Huang family who were guarding the prison. Accompanied by angry curses, a middle-aged man strode over with a murderous aura. "Bastard, you're just in the creation realm. If my power wasn't sealed, would you dare touch me?" Seeing the person, Elder Duan Hun was furious. He kicked open the door of the cell and rushed out, pouncing on the middle-aged man. Chapter 2049. Bang! The middle-aged man didn't even have time to react before he was kicked in the abdomen by Elder Duan Hun. He was only a creation realm cultivator, while Elder Duan Hun was a true netherworld insight realm expert. Moreover, Elder Duan Hun attacked in anger. Therefore, this middle-aged man was in a tragedy. He was kicked by Elder Duan Hun and turned into a bloody mist. He couldn't be more dead. "Good disciple, let's go and cause trouble in the Huang family." Elder Duan Hun laughed and rushed out first. At this moment, some alarmed Huang family disciples also rushed over. However, there was no insight realm existence among the Huang family disciples guarding the heavenly prison. Therefore, one of these people died when they rushed over, and two of them died when they rushed over. Elder Duan Hun was really angry and didn't show any mercy. In an instant, the Huang family's heavenly prison was filled with blood. However, when Elder Duan Hun and Murong Yu rushed to the entrance of the heavenly prison, the Huang family's insight realm experts finally arrived. They sealed the entrance of the heavenly prison one by one. Although Elder Duan Hun was powerful, he was not Murong Yu after all. With his strength at the first level of the insight realm, he might be able to barely contend with 1 or 2 second-level existences. However, if there were more opponents, or if their cultivation level was higher, he would be no match for them at all. Therefore, when he found that there were a lot of insight realm experts here, he didn't rush in. Instead, he stopped and looked at Murong Yu, who was walking slowly behind him. Murong Yu nodded slightly. "Master, you go ahead. I'll take care of everything." After receiving Murong Yu's guarantee, Duan Hun let out a hearty laugh. Then he unfolded his body and charged forward, courting death. A second-level insight realm cultivator stepped out and punched at Elder Duan Hun. Elder Duan Hun roared, not afraid of the Huang family cultivator who was at a higher cultivation level than him at all. He also punched out fiercely. Seeing this scene, the Huang family cultivators all had disdainful looks on their faces. Could it be that the long-term torture had caused Elder Duan Hun to lose his mind? Or was he stupid? The second-stage cultivator from the Huang clan also had the same thought in his heart. In the blink of an eye, the two fists were about to collide. Right at this moment, the expression of the Huang family's second-stage insight realm expert changed drastically. Just now, he discovered that his power had been sealed. This was a battle. If his strength was sealed, then there was only one outcome for him: death. Therefore, the cultivator from the Huang family was extremely shocked and wanted to retreat immediately. However, how could he evade Soul Severance attack without any power? Boom! After a muffled explosion, the Stage 2 Insight Stage cultivator from the Huang clan didn't even have time to scream before his entire body and soul was blown to smithereens by Elder Duan Hun. He couldn't be more dead. Seeing this, the Huang family and even Elder Duan Hun were stunned. This fellow had died too quickly, too cowardly. However, Duan Hun reacted quickly. This should be Murong Yu's credit. Although Duan Hun did not know how Murong Yu did it, he knew that Murong Yu must have sealed the other party's power. Kill! After regaining his senses, Duan Hun roared and rushed forward. He attacked with both fists, directly enveloping all the experts of the Huang family. Among them, there was a powerful existence who had reached the 3rd level of the Insight Stage. Everyone from the Huang family was furious, but in the next moment, their expressions changed. Because just now, their power was sealed by an inexplicable force. They had become ordinary people. Bang! 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 Without power, how could they be a match for Elder Duan Hun? In the blink of an eye, they all became souls under Elder Duan Hun's hands. Awesome! Elder Duan Hun laughed heartily as he jumped out of the prison. Although it wasn't his power that killed these experts, it was his disciples' power. He still felt good. Duan Hun, you're courting death. Just as Murong Yu and Elder Duan Hun rushed out of the prison, an angry roar came from afar. At the same time, black shadows constantly shot over from afar. In the blink of an eye, they surrounded Murong Yu and Elder Duan Han. Each and every one of them was an insight stage expert. After all, the Huang family was a 7th-rank family, and there were still many insight stage cultivators. Moreover, the news of Duan Hun displaying invincible might and slaughtering Nether Enlightenment Realm cultivators like slaughtering chickens and dogs had probably already spread. Therefore, there was no lack of 4th and 5th level insight stage cultivators surrounding them. Murong Yu even saw a 6th level insight stage cultivator hiding behind the crowd, waiting for an opportunity to attack. Duan Hun, who gave you the guts to kill my people? A 5th level insight stage cultivator stepped out of the crowd and looked at Elder Duan Hun with a face full of killing intent. If it was before Murong Yu came, Elder Duan Hun would have run as far as he could when he saw this battle. However, Murong Yu gave him great confidence. These people who were usually powerful were now demons and monsters in front of him. They were not enough to be killed by him with a single punch. Let Xian out and let us leave. Then we'll write off the past. Otherwise, the Huang family will be massacred today. Elder Duan Hun also took a step forward and looked at the other party with murderous intent. Hearing Elder Duan Hun's words, the Huang family people immediately looked at him with disdain. You dare to be a toad who wants to eat swan meat? Why don't you go back and look in the mirror? The 5th level insight stage cultivator sneered. Elder Duan Hun narrowed his eyes slightly. What bullshit *T identity? It was nothing to him. Moreover, Huang Yaqian didn't mind. So why would they mind? Since you were stubborn, then don't blame me for massacring the Huang family. Elder Duan Hun sneered and took a step forward. His entire body had turned into a stream of light and pounced towards the 5th level insight stage cultivator. The disdain on the Huang family's faces became even stronger. Elder Duan Han was only at the 1st level of the insight stage. He was simply courting death. However, their expressions soon changed, because they clearly saw that the 5th level insight stage cultivator was blown up by Elder Duan Han with a single punch. They didn't even have time to react. It was really terrifying. Why did Elder Duan Han have such terrifying strength? If his previous strength was so terrifying, the Huang family wouldn't be able to take him down. The only variable now was Murong Yu, who had been silently following behind Elder Duan Han. However, Murong Yu was only at the 7th level of the creation stage. It was simply not enough. Could it be that there was a super expert behind Elder Duan Han who was secretly helping him? Kill! Many insight stage cultivators of the Huang family reacted. One by one, they blasted out their strongest attacks towards Elder Duan Han. Sensing the terrifying aura of destruction, Elder Duan Han's face changed continuously. His strength was actually fake. Therefore, how could his expression not change? Murong Yu took a step forward and appeared beside Elder Duan Han. Since he appeared, the power that bombarded him automatically slipped past him. It didn't hit Murong Yu or Elder Duan Han at all. Master's wife is not in the Huang family. I have already checked once before. I think in the entire Huang family, only their ancestor knows where Master's wife is. It's useless to be entangled with these trash. Let's go directly to their ancestor. All right. Elder Duan Hun's face revealed a touch of worry. Then, Murong Yu took him to the sky. They directly swept past the encirclement of the crowd and rushed into the deepest part of the Huang family. The last part of the Huang family was a small courtyard with pleasant scenery and quiet scenery. Come out. Murong Yu stood in front of the courtyard and said indifferently. However, there was no response from the courtyard. At this moment, the experts of the Huang family had also rushed over. Kill the 2 of them, someone in the crowd roared. Then, the insight stage cultivators attacked aggressively and blasted towards Murong Yu violently. Noisy. Murong Yu's face revealed a touch of impatience. He looked back at them and shouted in a low voice, "Plop, plop," regardless of whether these people were standing in the void or on the ground. After being glanced at by Murongyu, all of them crawled on the ground without exception. It was not that they were willing to submit, but there was an extremely terrifying aura suppressing them. They had no choice but to crawl. If they did not crawl, they would be crushed by the terrifying aura. With just a glance, everyone was suppressed. What kind of strength is this? Isn't it too terrifying? Everyone, including Duan Hun, was stunned. Each and every one of them looked at Murongyu in shock, especially Duan Hun, who was inexplicably shocked. After all, when they left the solar system, how could Murongyu be so powerful? Now, in just over 100 years, Murongyu had grown to such a terrifying level. Still not coming out? Murongyu said in a low voice. A touch of impatience flashed in the depths of his eyes. Then he slowly stretched out his big hand and grabbed the small courtyard in front of him. Boom! The small courtyard directly exploded, and then a figure turned into a stream of light and blasted away into the distance. However, Morongyu's big hand produced a huge suction force. The figure originally wanted to escape into the distance, but in the end, it quickly collided with Murongyu's big hand and was finally grabbed by Murongyu's neck. Ancestor. At this time, everyone finally saw the figure clearly. Immediately, everyone in the Huang family exclaimed. After the exclamation, everyone in the Huang family's eyes flashed with intense despair. Even their ancestor was easily suppressed by Murongyu. How could the Huang family fight against Murongyu? Was the Huang family going to be destroyed just like that? If they knew that there was such a super expert behind Duan Han, wouldn't it be better to marry Huang Yeki into him? The Huang family would not be like this. In an instant, many people in the Huang family had this thought in their hearts, and they all regretted it. Old man, where is my master's wife? Let me tell you, if my master's wife is injured, your Huang family will be completely destroyed today. Everyone, old and young, will die. Do you understand? Looking at the ancestor of the Huang family, Murongyu said lightly. However, the coldness in his voice made everyone in the Huang family feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. Chapter 2050. He's at least a level 9 insight realm existence. Old ancestor Huang looked at Murongyu in horror, his heart filled with regret. At the same time, he was filled with regret and fear. Facing a level 9 netherworld insight expert like Murongyu, their Huang family could easily disappear from the 100 Apertures galaxy without a trace if they weren't careful. He didn't expect Duan Han to have such a terrifying backer. This bastard, if he had said that he had such a backer, I wouldn't have to send Huang Yeki in too. Damn it, this bastard has done me a lot of harm. Old ancestor Huang kept cursing elder Duan Han in his heart, feeling extremely regretful. Seeing that old ancestor Huang was silent for a long time, Murongyu's face suddenly turned gloomy. A trace of fierce killing intent spread out. Old ancestor Huang's heart trembled, and he quickly reacted, Senior, Huang Yekian is no longer in the Huang family. While speaking, old ancestor Huang's face showed a touch of bitterness. Duan Hun suddenly became anxious, and he grabbed old ancestor Huang's neck, almost lifting him up like a chicken. Where did Xianer go? Is she hurt? Old ancestor Huang's eyes flashed with a fierce light. Duan Hun was only a level 1 insight realm expert. How dare he lift him up by the neck? If it was before, he would have killed Duan Hun. But now he didn't dare to. The Huang family's ancestor fearfully glanced at Murongyu before hesitantly saying, She's already gone to the 9th rank by family. The young master of the Bai family has taken a liking to her and will officially marry her in a few days. She shouldn't have suffered any harm. Bai family? Duan Hun's heart trembled. The Bai family was a level 9 family. How could they have crossed paths with Huang Yekian? Duan Hun knew that Huang Yekian almost never stepped out of the house. How could the young master of the Bai family like her? Are you the one who did this? Duan Hun stared at old ancestor Huang and roared. Old ancestor Huang wanted to say no, But under Murong Yu's terrifying gaze, he didn't dare to say no, because he decided to send Huang Yaqian over. Huang Yaqian was a genius of the Huang family, and she was also the most beautiful girl in the Huang family. A while ago, the young master of the Bai family had come here. At that time, the old ancestor of the Huang family was trying his best to curry favor with the 9th grade Bai family. In the end, Huang Yaqian was sent out. The young master of the Bai clan was also not a good person. When he saw a beauty like Huang Yaqian, he lost half of his soul. It was because of this that the Huang clan successfully hooked up with the Bai clan. The price was to send Huang Yaqian away. "Old bastard, I'll kill you." Duan Hun was furious. A slap landed on old ancestor Huang's face. Ah! The old ancestor of the Huang family let out a blood-curdling scream as he was sent flying. Seeing this scene, the people from the Huang clan couldn't help but feel pain in their faces. This slap was like a slap to their faces. A cold, killing intent flashed across Murong Yu's eyes. However, he had seen this kind of thing many times before. The fate of the disciples of many forces and clans was like this. They would be thrown out like chess pieces by their own forces and clans to achieve the master's goal. However, when this happened to him, Murong Yu couldn't tolerate it. Therefore, he stretched out his hand and directly grabbed the old ancestor of the Huang family. Immediately after, the immense divine consciousness pierced into the soul of the old ancestor of the Huang family. Read his memory. "Master, we can still make it if we rush over now. What should we do with these people?" After reading the Huang family's ancestors' memories, Murong Yu had the urge to slap him to death. The number of filthy things that this old man had done wasn't an ordinary number. Forget it. Let's go and save Qian first. They better pray that Qian doesn't get hurt. Otherwise, I'll wash the Huang family with blood. Duan Hun glanced at the old ancestor of the Huang family and said with a murderous look, "You better stay here obediently. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." Murong Yu looked at the old ancestor of the Huang family and the others indifferently. Then he grabbed Duan Hun and turned into a stream of light, disappearing in front of the Huang family. It wasn't until Murong Yu left that the terrifying aura suppressing the Huang family finally dissipated. Only then was everyone able to stand up. However, there was no excitement on their faces. On the contrary, they were more serious than before. "Old ancestor, what should we do? Do we really have to stay here?" An expert of the Huang family walked to the old ancestor of the Huang family and asked worriedly. The old ancestor of the Huang family looked gloomy. He was sure that Murong Yu was a level 9 insight realm existence. In the face of such an existence, how could the Huang family, which was only a level 7 family, resist? Run away? If a 9th level Nether Enlightenment realm expert wanted to pursue them, then where could they flee to? But if he were to stay here, he would not be willing to do so. "Old ancestor, aren't they going to the Bai family?" The Bai family has more than one level 9 insight realm existence. Although that bastard is strong, he's not a match for the Bai family. If we tell the Bai family in advance that he's going, a level 5 insight realm cultivator came over and suggested to the old ancestor of the Huang family with a sneer. Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. Let them kill each other. In fact, they might kill each other. Murong Yu was just going to die. The old ancestor of the Huang family's eyes flashed and sent a message out. On the other side, the Bai family is a level 9 family. "Murong Yu, are you confident?" "And I believe the Bai family has already been notified. On the way," Duan Hun said worriedly. Although he was worried about Huang Yaqian, he didn't want to lose Murong Yu. If he was alone, even if he died, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, Murong Yu's future was limitless. If he died like this, he would regret it forever. "Master, don't worry. Not to mention one Bai family. Even if there were 10 Bai families, I wouldn't care," Murong Yu said with a sneer. From the old ancestor of the Huang family's memory, he had a rough understanding of the Bai family's strength. Although the Bai family was a level 9 family, there were only 3 level 9 insight realm existences in the entire family. Their strength wasn't the best in the 100 Apertures galaxy. With Murong Yu's strength, he could definitely fight against the Bai family. If he angered Murong Yu, he could create hundreds of millions of level 8 Insight Realm existences. At that time, even 10 Bai families would be destroyed by him. Did the Bai family already receive the news? Murong Yu had already expected this, but he wasn't afraid at all. Murong Yu, I appreciate your kindness. However, if you encounter some people you can't defeat, you can leave directly. There's no need to be harmed because of me. Duan Hun pondered for a while before speaking in a deep voice. Murong Yu just smiled. Unless he encountered a Genesis Realm powerhouse, he was invincible under the Insight Realm. Moreover, even if he encountered a Genesis Realm powerhouse, it wasn't impossible for him to escape. Moreover, if the Bai family was really that strong, he wouldn't be so stupid to fight head-on. The purpose of this trip was only to save people, not to destroy the Bai family. Although he hadn't spent much time with Murong Yu, Duan Hun already had a basic understanding of Murong Yu's character. Therefore, he didn't continue to persuade him. The 100 Apertures Galaxy was much stronger than the solar system. The teleportation formations that went to and fro everywhere were like a spider's web, densely packed. In less than an hour, Murong Yu had already appeared on the origin planet where the Bai family was located. With a sweep of his divine telekinesis, Murong Yu saw where the Bai family was. Therefore, he brought Duan Hun and flew straight to the Bai family. Whoosh, whoosh. However, before they reached the Bai family, a group of 3 people appeared in front of Murong Yu and blocked the 2 of them. It's a joyous occasion for the Bai family. No one without an invitation is allowed to come near. Leave immediately, one of the 3 people said coldly to Murong Yu and the other 2. Murong Yu couldn't help but sneer. These 3 people didn't even ask, so how did they know that he wasn't a guest? They chased him away directly. They obviously knew that Murong Yu and Duan Hun were here to cause trouble. However, Murong Yu didn't want to let them have their way. A good dog doesn't block the way. Get out of my way. Murong Yu sneered. You're asking for death. The 3 of them roared and immediately attacked. A terrifying power that could destroy the heavens and earth erupted as they grabbed at Murong Yu. The 3 of them were level 8 Insight Realm existences. Even in the Bai family, they were considered elder ancestors. They sent out 3 people at once. It was obvious that they valued Murong Yu. However, they still underestimated Murong Yu. At this moment, the Bai family was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. It was very lively. In the hall, the atmosphere was joyous. A pair of newlyweds were about to go through the wedding ceremony. The bride's face was covered by a red veil, but none of the guests present could feel joy from her. On the contrary, a wave of sadness came from the bride. However, the crowd didn't care. They didn't care about the bride's feelings. They came here to curry favor with the Bai family and to make friends with the other families who came to drink the wedding wine. Drinking the wedding wine wasn't their purpose. Their real purpose was to make friends with the other families. The groom was naturally aware of these things. Moreover, he couldn't wait any longer. Why would he care about other people's business? When he thought that the incomparably beautiful woman was about to become one of his wives, when he thought about how they could consummate their marriage and ravage the beautiful woman to his heart's content, Bai Tai's heart couldn't help but burn. Therefore, he hurriedly urged them to go through the wedding ceremony. There was no other way. If they didn't go through the ceremony, Huang Yaqian wouldn't consummate their marriage. Of course, with Bai Tai's mood, he would definitely force himself on her. However, Huang Yaqian had a treasure. He couldn't force himself on her. Otherwise, why would they make it so complicated and go through the wedding ceremony? However, just as they were about to go through the ceremony, boom, the roof of the hall that they were in was suddenly blasted apart. At the same time, a figure fell from the sky and landed beside Bai Tai. Chapter 2051. Everyone in the hall was taken aback by this sudden development, especially Bai Tai, who was almost scared to death. Bastard! What the hell are you doing? Bai Tai shouted. He was about to kick the figure. However, his face turned pale as soon as he kicked. because he noticed that the person that fell by his side was none other than a level 8 Netherworld realm expert of the Bai clan. He was second only to the 3 ancestors of the Bai family. At that moment, he was lying on the ground like a dead dog. No one knew if he was dead or alive. What's going on? Bai Tai was terrified. Besides experts at the 9th level of the Nether Enlightenment realm, could anyone else easily defeat an existence at such a level? Bang! Bang! Just as Bai Tai and the others were shocked, another 2 figures descended from the sky. Another 2 powerful existences at the 8th level of the Insight realm. However, the 2 of them were the same as the previous one. They lay on the ground like dead dogs, not moving at all. Bai Tai was so scared that his face turned pale. At this moment, 2 figures descended from the sky and slowly landed. They were none other than Murong Yu and Duan Han. Earlier, the 3 8th level Netherworld realm experts had blocked Murong Yu's path with the intention of killing them. However, they were no match for Murong Yu. They were knocked out by Murong Yu with a punch each. In the end, they were thrown down. They were invincible under the Insight realm. Swoosh! After Murong Yu appeared, the first thing he did was to reach out and grab Bai Tai. How dare you! However, as soon as he stretched out his hand, a furious roar was heard. Then, 3 figures appeared out of thin air in the hall. Ancestor! When they saw the 3 old men, the people of the Bai family exclaimed in surprise. The 3 of them were the 3 ancestors of the Bai family, the 3 supreme rank 9 Insight realm experts. It was because of their existence that the Bai family could become a rank 9 family. Qian'er, ever since Duan Han appeared, his eyes were fixed on the bride with a red veil covering her face. Even though he couldn't see the other party's appearance, Duan Han still recognized the woman as his beloved at first glance. Hearing Duan Han's call, the bride's body trembled. Then, he tore off her red veil. Then, he looked at Duan Han with a trembling voice and called out, "Brother Han." At the same time, Huang Yaqian wanted to pounce on Duan Han. However, one of the Bai clan's patriarchs scoffed coldly. A powerful force spread out from his body and was about to envelop Huang Yaqian. No matter how much of a bastard Bai Tai was, he was still a member of the Bai family. He would not allow anyone to take anything from the Bai family. Murong Yu sneered and flicked his finger. Poof! The power released by the ancestor disappeared into nothingness. Huang Yaqian naturally pounced on Duan Han without any resistance. However, how could Elder Ancestor Bai allow this to happen? Thus, he attacked again. Even the other 2 patriarchs attacked Murong Yu at the same time. What a shameless old man. Murong Yu sneered and attacked fearlessly. Boom! 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 After 3 muffled sounds, the 4 of them trembled slightly. However, the power of the 3 Bai clan's patriarchs was also shattered by Murong Yu. They were just 3 ordinary level 9 Insight realm cultivators. After exchanging blows, Murong Yu could see the cultivation level of the 3 patriarchs. They were only at the beginning stage of level 9 Insight realm. However, Murong Yu had already reached the peak of level 9 Insight realm. He was more powerful than the 3 patriarchs combined. If he used his soul attack, the 3 Bai clan's patriarchs would not be a match for him. I'll take her away, and we'll let this matter rest. Murong Yu glanced at the 3 patriarchs calmly. Impossible. Patriarchs, this person barged into our Bai clan and injured several of our patriarchs. He's really arrogant. We can't let him leave. Otherwise, how can our Bai clan keep our dignity if this matter spreads? Bai Tai almost jumped up. Murong Yu and Duan Han could leave, but Huang Yaqian could not. That was his goal. The Bai clan's dignity and reputation had nothing to do with him, and he did not care. The 3 patriarchs looked at each other and fell silent. Murong Yu came to their house to snatch the bride and took Huang Yaqian away in front of their eyes. If this matter spread, they would be too ashamed to continue roaming the Jianghu. However, they also knew how powerful Murong Yu was. If a battle broke out, Murong Yu might be killed by them. However, one of the 3 patriarchs would definitely die. The price was too high. Boss, this person's talent is terrifying. He's stronger than us when he's only in the blessed realm. Moreover, Our Bai clan has a grudge with him. He might even hold a grudge against us. Therefore, we can't let him leave. The three patriarchs of the Bai clan were actually three brothers. At this moment, the third patriarch of the Bai clan transmitted his voice to the Bai clan's patriarch. The Bai clan's patriarch's face was gloomy, as if he was still weighing the pros and cons, boss. Don't we have that trump card? That's a terrifying existence that can even refine a Genesis realm powerhouse. I don't believe that we can't refine this evil creature. Moreover, this evil creature's talent is heaven-defying. If we can study it thoroughly, we might be able to be as heaven-defying. The second patriarch of the Bai clan said in a low voice. The Bai clan's eldest patriarch's eyes lit up, and the expression on his face suddenly became determined. At this moment, Murong Yu's heart was suddenly enveloped by an extremely strong sense of danger. Pale with fright, he waved his hand and immediately put Duan Hun and Huang Yeqian into the Hichu Luo Shu. At the same time, he also wanted to enter the Hichu Luo Shu and directly teleport away. However, he realized that he could not enter the Hichu Luo Shu. The space in the main hall had actually been frozen. Since he could not enter the Hichu Luo Shu, then he would directly charge out. However, Murong Yu felt as if he had sunk into a swamp. His speed was not even 1% of his peak speed. He, who could originally cross the Origin Star realm in one step, could not even cross the main hall in one step. Boom! A loud, muffled sound was heard. In the next moment, Murong Yu and everyone in the main hall felt the scene in front of them change. The main hall was still the main hall, but the outside of the main hall was sealed. It was as if they were covered by an extremely powerful origin treasure. Murong Yu's heart sank as he turned to look at Bai Tai and the three patriarchs of the Bai clan. However, he realized that everyone from the Bai clan who was originally in the main hall had already disappeared. Only the guests were still there. A guest at the third stage of the Netherworld realm suddenly let out a scream. Then, Murong Yu and the others saw that the guest's body suddenly became transparent. Then, with a kacha-kacha sound, it broke apart. In less than an instant, the guest had disappeared without a trace. And this guest was just the beginning. After him, the guests who were weaker all turned into dust one after another and died directly. Bai clan, are you trying to start a war with the various forces? Someone in the main hall shouted in fear. The rest used the forces behind them to suppress the Bai clan and make the Bai clan let them go. However, Murong Yu sneered. If the Bai clan had such scruples, they would have gotten them out long ago. These people did not think about how to resist these deaths, but they wanted the Bai clan to let them go. They were simply too stupid. This should be the space of a treasure. After some observation, Murong Yu realized that they had been kept in a treasure. The reason why the guests had been reduced to dust was because their powers, flesh, and souls had been devoured by the treasure he was in. The useful ones had been swallowed, and the useless ones had been blasted into powder. Murong Yu frowned slightly. He also felt a powerful force acting on his body, trying to pull his strength, soul, flesh, and blood out of his body. Once his strength, soul, flesh, and blood were pulled out, Murong Yu's body would also turn into powder like the guests. He could not be more dead. However, Murong Yu was strong. Although the treasure's power was strong, it could not do anything to him. However, Murong Yu also realized that the treasure's power was gradually increasing. In fact, Murong Yu also realized that as more and more guests were devoured, the treasure's power became stronger. It seemed that the more it devoured, the more powerful the treasure became. If this continued, Murong Yu was afraid that he would be in danger. Murong Yu's immensely powerful divine sense spread out and enveloped the treasure space. He wanted to get a clear look at what it was. It's all that bastard's fault. If it wasn't for him, the Bai family wouldn't have attacked us. Kill him. At this moment, a guest's eyes were spitting fire as he glared at Murong Yu. At the same time, he pounced over. The others were also angered, and they all rushed towards Murong Yu. Murong Yu shook his head. Although these people had been implicated because of him, they were all fish in the moat. However, at this juncture of life and death, they did not work together to get through this crisis. Instead, they wanted to kill him. Even if they killed him, would the Bai family let them go? Get lost. Murong Yu coldly snorted as an incomparably berserk aura erupted from his body. It directly blasted the experts who were rushing over away. This was a warning. If these people dared to do it a second time, he would definitely not mind killing them all. However, after killing them, the treasure's power would be directed at him alone. A hint of fear appeared in everyone's eyes. There was no lack of level 8 insight realm experts among them. However, the gap between them and Murong Yu was too big. They were no match for Murong Yu at all. Therefore, they did not dare to continue attacking Murong Yu. However, Murong Yu didn't pay any attention to them. He simply sat down cross-legged and began to study this mysterious treasure with rapt attention. Chapter 2052. This unknown treasure was very magical. While Murong Yu was studying it, the strength of the relatively weaker people was continuously devoured and turned into dust. The power of the treasure was becoming stronger and stronger. At this moment, everyone except Murong Yu finally reacted. They were no longer conflicted about whether they could kill Murong Yu. Instead, they gathered together and began to work together to resist the devouring of the treasure. Outside the treasure, the Bai family's original hall had long been reduced to dust and razed to the ground. However, a large cauldron appeared out of thin air in its place. The large cauldron looked ordinary, but it was indeed very simple. There were even some simple patterns carved on it. From the looks of it, this large cauldron was quite old. However, the magical thing was that although the large cauldron was not transparent, the people outside the large cauldron could clearly see the people inside the large cauldron. However, the place where the main hall was originally located had been sealed by the 3 ancestors of the Bai family. Other than the 3 of them, no one in the Bai family could see this scene. After all, this was not a good thing. Once the news of them refining the powerhouses of other forces spread, the Bai family would have to bear the anger of many forces. The Bai family did not have a creation realm powerhouse yet, so they could not bear the anger of many forces. Boss, second brother, looks like we have to add fuel to the fire. Looking at Murong Yu and the others in the large cauldron, the third brother of the Bai family sneered. Murong Yu's strength was beyond their expectations. With the current power of the large cauldron, it was impossible to refine him. Moreover, after the other powerhouses gathered together, their powerful strength gathered into a solid fortress, making the large cauldron unable to refine them. However, even so, the people in the large cauldron could only passively defend because they could not rush out of the large cauldron. In fact, they did not even find the exit of the large cauldron. Therefore, there was no need to talk about rushing out. After refining these people, the large cauldron might break through to the creation realm. The second brother of the Bai family nodded slightly. The large cauldron was actually an incomplete origin artifact. It was accidentally obtained by the brothers a few years ago. Later, they discovered that the large cauldron could devour the souls, strength, and flesh of cultivators to evolve. Therefore, during these years, the 3 ancestors of the Bai clan frequently took action and allowed the cauldron to devour many cultivators. However, they had originally only been in the 9th level of the profound underworld tier. Even if the 3 of them were in the 3rd level of the profound underworld tier, there was still an extremely large distance between them and the Genesis tier. Thus, they had no way of killing a Genesis tier cultivator. However, there were many Nether Enlightenment realm experts that had died at their hands. However, the enormous cauldron's appetite was too great. Even though it had devoured many 9th level Nether Enlightenment realm experts, it was still unable to break through. However, the 3 ancestors of the Bai clan had a feeling. Once it swallowed Murong Yu, the cauldron would definitely advance to the creation realm. At that time, their Bai clan would also become a force on the level of creation tier in one go, and become the ruler of the 100 Apertures galaxy. Thus, the 3 of them placed their hands on the cauldron. In the next moment, a tremendous amount of power gushed into the cauldron like raging waves. 1. With the support of these 3 incomparably powerful forces, the cauldron began to tremble violently. Within the cauldron, the devouring power of the cauldron increased tenfold, and it was still increasing at a crazy speed. A fifth-level Nether Enlightenment Realm cultivator was caught off guard. After letting out a scream, his entire body rapidly turned transparent and then shattered, and this was only the beginning. Immediately after, the souls, strength, and flesh of the Nether Enlightenment Realm experts were continuously devoured clean. The fortress that was originally formed by the crowd was instantly destroyed. In less than a few breaths of time, 1/3 of the cultivators were completely devoured. At this moment, Murong Yu felt that the power of the cauldron had already risen to the 9th level of the Nether Enlightenment Realm. The power of this level also began to have some effect on him. However, it was only a little effect. It was still not enough to devour his power. 1. The power of the cauldron was still increasing. After the last cultivator apart from Murong Yu was refined, the cauldron shook violently again, and its power suddenly increased by 100 times, reaching the level of the creation realm. The level of the creation realm was at least 100 times stronger than Murong Yu. At this moment, the power enveloped Murong Yu like a storm, crazily devouring Murong Yu's power. This power was much stronger than Murong Yu's. Murong Yu's power could no longer stand tall like a mountain. After a bang, Murong Yu's power quickly surged out of his body like a dam bursting. In fact, in addition to the power, the devouring power also acted on his physical body, wanting to devour his flesh and blood. On the other hand, Murong Yu's soul remained motionless in the soul space. Murong Yu frowned slightly. The billions of roots of the tree of life in his dantian that were rooted in the endless chaos began to tremble violently. Waves of Del's chaotic power continuously surged into his body like a flood, replenishing his rapidly depleting power. According to the speed of recovery, it should be equal to the depleting power. However, if I can't break out, the more power this treasure devours, the stronger it will become. In the end, the power that my tree of life devours can't catch up to the power that is being devoured. In the end, I will be sucked dry. I have to think of a way to leave this place. Murong Yu thought in his heart, and his frown became more and more intense. Because he couldn't find the exit of this treasure at all, he still hadn't found the flaw of this treasure. The big cauldron has finally broken through to the creation realm. Now it can erupt with the power of the creation realm. At this moment, outside the big cauldron, the 3 ancestors of the Bai family were extremely excited. The big cauldron was different from ordinary origin artifacts. Ordinary creation realm origin artifacts. Even if they could erupt with the power of the creation realm, their power would be sucked dry in an instant, and they would even be sucked dry to death. But the big cauldron was different. It didn't even need their power to move it. In fact, the big cauldron could even kill people by itself. It was simply like a creation realm powerhouse. This kid is really tenacious. The 3 ancestors of the Bai family were amazed by Murong Yu's strength. At this moment, Murong Yu, who was inside the big cauldron, exploded into pieces with a bang. He couldn't be more dead. The 3 of them didn't suspect anything and directly took back the big cauldron. It's a pity. This kid is only in the creation realm, but he has the terrifying strength of the 9th level of the insight realm. If we can get his cultivation technique, our strength will become even stronger, the 3rd ancestor of the Bai family said with a look of pity. The eldest and 2nd ancestors of the Bai family also felt that it was a pity. However, the big cauldron's advancement quickly made them excited. Boss, I think we can set off now. I can't wait to unify the 100 Holes Galaxy, the 2nd ancestor of the Bai family said excitedly, suggesting that the eldest of the Bai family go and unify the 100 Holes Galaxy now. What a daydream. Before the eldest of the Bai family could say anything, a disdainful and cold voice suddenly sounded in their ears. The 3 ancestors of the Bai family were stunned. Just as they felt that this voice was somewhat familiar, a young man suddenly appeared in their line of sight. Murong Yu, you're not dead yet? The 3 ancestors of the Bai family were instantly shocked. Wasn't Murong Yu refined by the big cauldron? How'd he come back to life? Soulstorm, As he spoke, Muronyu had already launched a soul attack. Originally, his combat strength was much stronger than the three ancestors of the Bai family. However, a soul attack was even more terrifying than a physical attack. Moreover, Murongyu's sneak attack caught the three ancestors of the Bai family off guard. Therefore, while the three ancestors of the Bai family were still in shock, their souls had already been shattered by Murongyu. With a strong sense of confusion, the three ancestors of the Bai family died just like that. Even when they died, they still didn't understand how Murongyu came back to life. Whoosh! After the souls of the three ancestors of the Bai family were shattered, Murongyu quickly reached out and grabbed the ancient cauldron. This cauldron had almost refined him. It was quite powerful. After putting the cauldron into the Hichu Luoshu, Murongyu finally let out a sigh of relief. Thinking back to the previous scene, he still felt that he was very lucky. The three ancestors of the Bai family saw Murongyu being refined, but in reality, it wasn't Murongyu who was being refined, but one of his energy clones. In an instant, Murongyu transformed into an energy clone. At the same time that his energy clone appeared, his true body hid itself. Originally, this was just a trial by Murongyu, and the success rate wasn't high. However, he didn't expect the three ancestors of the Bai family to be so complacent. After realizing that Murongyu had died, they didn't even check before putting the cauldron away. If they had been on it for a few breaths, they would have realized that something was wrong with the cauldron. This was because although Murongyu was invisible, the cauldron was still devouring his energy. As long as one of the three ancestors of the Bai family noticed this, Murongyu wouldn't be able to escape quickly, let alone kill them. Therefore, no matter how powerful one was, or how terrifying one's trump card was, one must always be careful. Otherwise, one would fail miserably. After taking away the cauldron, Murongyu also took away all the interspatial treasures of the three ancestors. In fact, before he left, he even emptied the Bai family's treasury. After all, the Bai family wasn't anything good. They were all ill-gotten gains, so it would be a waste to not take their things. As for Bai Tai and the others, Murongyu didn't kill them. The Bai family had too many enemies, so there was no need for Murongyu to do anything. Once the Bai family's enemies found out that the three ancestors of the Bai family were dead, the Bai family would probably be wiped out overnight. Moreover, Murongyu is also very cunning. Before he left, he spread the news that the ancestors of the Bai family had refined many of the guests. It didn't matter if the others believed it or not. He just needed to spread the news. Chapter 2053. Sure enough, not long after Murongyu left, the Bai family was annihilated. In addition to the Bai family's past enemies, there were also some allies of the Bai family. Most of these allies were families and forces that had gone to attend Bai Tai's wedding. When they learned that their people had been refined by the Bai family's ancestor, they were furious and immediately sent out powerhouses. In the end, the Bai family was completely wiped out from the 100 Apertures galaxy. Even the disciples of the Bai family, who were stranded outside, were hunted down by many forces. In the end, only a small part of the Bai family escaped outside the 100 Apertures galaxy. It could be said that the Bai family was completely annihilated. On the other side, Master, Mistress, are you really going to leave the 100 Apertures galaxy? Looking at the sweet couple in front of him, Murongyu asked somewhat puzzledly. When they learned that the Bai family was annihilated and they were safe, Duan Hun and Huang Yaqian were naturally overjoyed. At the same time, they were also very grateful to Murongyu. However, in the end, they decided to leave the 100 Apertures galaxy, a place that hurt them. The Bai family was already annihilated, and the Huang family was still Huang Yaqian's family. They did not destroy the Huang family. Even if they returned to the Huang family openly, the Huang family would not do anything to them. On the contrary, they would worship them as if they were their ancestors. However, the two of them decided to leave in the end and live a happy life in another galaxy. Duan Hun nodded. Murongyu, my aptitude is average. I will only drag you down if I stay by your side. Moreover, now that I have you, Mistress, I don't want to continue wandering. So, Morongyu nodded. He also wanted to live this kind of life. However, the reality was too helpless. He was like a hatred attractor, constantly attracting hatred. He could not stop at all. If he stopped, his ending would be very tragic. Therefore, Morongyu did not continue to persuade Duan Hun and Huang Yeqian to stay. Instead, he handed over the Bai family's treasury to Duan Hun, as well as some sun crystals, chaos origin liquid, and other treasures. These things were enough for Duan Hun to cultivate to the creation realm. Duan Hun didn't refuse. After accepting Murongyu's gift, he left with Huang Yeqian in a carefree manner to live a happy life together. Morongyu had nothing better to do. After entering Hichu Luoshu, he took out the cauldron that he had taken from elder ancestor Bai. Morongyu now had 3 cauldrons in his hands. One of them was naturally the yin-yang cauldron that he had obtained from the cultivation world. This was in existence at the level of a supreme treasure. The other was the huge cauldron that he had seized from Lin Hongzi. It was a soul-type origin artifact and was equally powerful. However, Morongyu had already given the soul cauldron to Zhao Jiqing. There was no other way. Morongyu also wanted to be fair, but there was only one soul cauldron. He could only give it to Zhao Jiqing. As soon as he held the cauldron in his hand, Morongyu impatiently probed it with his spiritual force, wanting to recognize the cauldron as its master. No! As soon as Murongyu's spiritual force entered the cauldron, he suddenly woke up with a start. Although the cauldron was indeed precious, and its abilities were quite heaven-defying, it wasn't at the level where it would recognize him as its master at first sight. Moreover, Morongyu originally didn't plan to recognize the cauldron as its master. He planned to refine it to increase his realm and strength. It was because of this cauldron. A glint flashed across Murongyu's eyes. This cauldron could actually affect his mind? This was practically a demonic cauldron. Recognize me as your master, and I can make you the most powerful existence in the world. You can even become the controller of chaos. At this moment, a dispirited voice suddenly rang in Murongyu's mind. Hearing this voice, Morongyu instantly felt dispirited. Without another word, he wanted to recognize the demonic cauldron as its master. However, Morongyu wasn't an ordinary person after all. He quickly reacted. A cold light flashed past his eyes, and he slammed his fist on the demonic cauldron. Don't play tricks with me. Do you believe that I won't refine you directly? After almost falling for it again and again, Morongyu couldn't help but feel a little angry. However, at the same time, he was more shocked. After all, his mind was extremely powerful. Even creation realm or celestial realm experts would find it difficult to confuse his mind. However, this demonic cauldron had done it easily. If he was still in the low-level creation realm, he would have foolishly recognized the demonic cauldron as its master long ago. After recognizing him as its master, he really didn't know if Morongyu would control the demonic cauldron or if the demonic cauldron would control him. He could feel that this demonic cauldron definitely wasn't something good. If Morongyu was already bewitching him now, wouldn't Morongyu become his puppet once he fell under his control? Recognize me as your master, and I can make you the most powerful being in the world. You can even become the controller of chaos. The weak voice sounded in Murongyu's mind again, bewitching Murongyu's soul. Although Morongyu had long since prepared himself, he still nearly lost his composure. He couldn't help but feel shocked. Moreover, the demonic cauldron's words were completely different. The first time, it wanted Morongyu to recognize it as his master. It wanted Morongyu to recognize it as his master. However, the second sentence had changed to recognizing the demonic cauldron as its master. It was a completely different concept. The 3 ancestors of the Bai family had probably been controlled by the demonic cauldron and had become its puppets. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to activate the demonic cauldron's strongest power. Who are you? Morongyu shouted in a low voice. He didn't think that the demonic cauldron was a weapon spirit. A weapon spirit wasn't this powerful, and its demonic nature wasn't this strong. The demonic cauldron definitely had a trace of spiritual consciousness left by some expert. That person might be the demonic cauldron's master. However, no matter how Murong-yu looked, he couldn't find anything. The demonic cauldron's master must be extremely powerful. It was very likely that he was a supreme being in the celestial realm. Recognize me as your master, and I can make you the most powerful being in the world. You can even become the controller of chaos. Recognize me as your master, and I can make you the most powerful being in the world. You can even become the controller of chaos. The demonic cauldron didn't answer Murong-yu's words. It just kept repeating these words in an attempt to bewitch Murong-yu. This caused Murong-yu's anger to soar to the skies. He had the chaotic celestial body constitution. Only someone with the chaotic celestial body could become the controller of chaos. It was just a possibility. It wasn't a certainty. The demonic cauldron kept saying that it could make him the most powerful being in the world and even become the controller of chaos. This was nonsense. But what if it was someone else? They would have believed it. Not many people knew about the chaotic celestial body constitution. After becoming the controller of chaos and being bewitched by the demonic cauldron, how many people could remain sane? Even Murong-yu was almost bewitched. In that case, I'll refine you directly. Murong-yu was also determined. He directly swallowed the demonic cauldron and prepared to refine it. This demonic cauldron was too strange. It gave Murong-yu a sense of danger. He definitely wouldn't give this demonic cauldron to his own people to use. But what if he lost it? What if an enemy picked it up? Wouldn't it become the strongest treasure to fight against him? Therefore, Murong-yu planned to refine it to increase his strength. The chaos furnace shook violently and frantically refined the demonic cauldron. However, the demonic cauldron didn't move at all. After refining for an hour, it couldn't refine it at all. With Murong-yu's current strength, it was enough to refine an ordinary Genesis Realm origin weapon. Even if it was an advanced Genesis Realm origin weapon, although the refining speed was slower, it could still be refined. In other words, this damaged demonic cauldron wasn't as simple as a Genesis Realm origin weapon. It was at least a Heaven Realm origin weapon. It was the same principle as the weapon fragment. However, the more powerful the demonic cauldron was, the more dangerous it made Murong-yu feel. The more he wanted to refine it. After half a day, the demonic cauldron still hadn't been refined at all. During this process, Murong-yu took out the Hichu Luoshu, the Inyan cauldron, the Black Thunder Pearl, and even the puppet, but it still couldn't do anything to the demonic cauldron. In the end, Murong-yu took out the weapon fragment, Buzz. The moment the weapon fragment appeared, the weapon fragment and the demonic cauldron moved at the same time. Then, before Murong-yu could react, the two origin weapons had already collided fiercely in the chaos furnace. The terrifying impact instantly exploded. Murong-yu was caught off guard, and the entire chaos furnace almost exploded. This shocked and infuriated Murong-yu. The chaos furnace was the only shortcut for him to quickly improve his realm. If the chaos furnace exploded, he could only rely on a long time to cultivate and slowly improve his strength. Thus, with a thought, he threw the demonic cauldron and the weapon fragment out of his body and directly out of the Hichu Luoshu. Boom! 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 The two damaged origin weapons immediately started fighting. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Day and night dimmed. Instantly, the surrounding planets suffered. One by one, the planets and even the origin planets were destroyed by the power of the two origin artifacts. It was like two Genesis Realm cultivators were fighting. Murong-yu had already retreated far away. At the same time, he was terrified. The demonic cauldron had actually exploded with such terrifying power. If it had exploded with this power at the beginning, he would probably have been killed already. However, why didn't the demonic cauldron kill him? Did it want to control Murong-yu? After all, the three ancestors of the Bai family that it had previously controlled were already dead. It now needed a new puppet to help it devour more power, so that it could recover to its peak as soon as possible. This was Murong-yu's thought. What Murong-yu didn't know was that the demonic cauldron had this idea. Could it be that the owner of the demonic cauldron and the weapon fragment's original owner are old acquaintances? Or even mortal enemies? Or perhaps the reason why the two origin weapons shattered was because of their battle? Moroniu thought as he watched the earth-shattering battle in front of him. At this moment, the weapon fragment was still his origin weapon, but it was no longer under his control. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.